interests and the exigencies of the state of affairs in Parliament, I will proceed to, in accordance with Standing Orders 59, adjourn the House indefinitely. That is sine die.
MPP is for peace. MPP is for peace. We will not allow anybody to disturb the peace of the country. It is a notorious fact that we remain the majority caucus of this parliament. You, the media, must add your voice to the advocacy to compel our colleagues to respect the fidelity of the law. I have heard a respected colleague on their side, Honorable Dr. Ayini, calling on Mr. Speaker to respect the Supreme Court decision. If that is true, then that's a noble call from him. Dr. Ayini is somebody I respect because of his respect for the law. I believe that moderates on the side of NDC will prevail on the horse in their party to call them to order. So I would want to thank you for being with us. We are leaving this chamber peacefully into our offices. I wait Mr. Speaker's arrival, and if he calls leadership and we do precedent discussions, we'll take it up from there. But for now, that lawless theater will not share with them, because Ghana, our country Ghana, is bigger than any one individual. So we would want to, at this point, sing our party's anthem to let you know who we are. Colleagues, we are the new party, we are the new patriotic party, the elephant is every symbol. We are one to save Ghana. The elephant is the winning symbol. We are one to save Ghana.
Well, after that anthem was sung, the Speaker delivered, based on at least the happenings in Parliament at the time, a decision that many have lauded him for, to the extent that Parliament was not properly constituted to, as it were, take decisions or do the proper business of the House. Parliament was adjourned indefinitely, sine die. Now, after that, the NPP MPs, led by the second deputy whip, wrote a memo beckoning on the Speaker to recall Parliament for urgent business to be done. There's a development to this particular move by the NPP MPs to have Parliament recalled for emergency business to be done. I'll tell you about it because it came through yesterday. But good morning from our studios here at Desawe in Accra. Welcome to The Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. On Key Point, we discuss the most topical issues of the week with a passionate, well-informed panelists who have the development of this country at heart. And in many, many ways, that has been shown over the last at least 12 months that we've been at this. Now, Speaker of Parliament, earlier this week, upon the announcement of this indefinite adjournment of Parliament's proceedings following that dramatic day in the chamber, characterized by heated disputes between the MPP and the NDC MPs. There are many who have eventually asked the question, now, how will this be solved? How will this end? Well, we would have the conversation this morning here on Key Point, as always, with the people who were there, and then also why they have taken these two positions. And the matters arising now at the Supreme Court as the Speaker has directed his lawyers to respond to that directive by the Supreme Court, so to say, to have the Speaker's decision, the execution of the Speaker's decision stayed. There are many lawyers who have questioned whether the Supreme Court had the jurisdiction to do so. We'll have a number of lawyers join us this morning. We would continue that discussion and get to a proper end. Well, yesterday, before we went to bed, there was another interlocutory injunction application on the matters related to the memo to have Parliament recalled to consider urgent business. I'll tell you about it. And this businessman who is asking that the Speaker be injuncted from taking any decision to recall Parliament to consider the urgent business. What are the urgent businesses that the NPP MPs are talking about? We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. There are very many ways that you can connect with us. Now, the next matter, President Akufo-Addo earlier this month outlined measures taken by his government in the light of the mounting pressure from Ghanaians to fight illegal mining in this country. Now, those directives included the deployment of soldiers, again, and other law enforcement agencies to flush out legal miners from our water bodies and forest reserves, which remained red zones to mining. He also announced immediate steps to revoke the environmental protection mining in forest reserves. What I'm saying to you is the name of that law that has now opened up our forest for companies licensed to go and destroy our forest reserves. They call it Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserves Regulations 2023. That's LI 2462. As we speak, that law is still on our books because Parliament, which was supposed to go through the process of repealing that, has also been involved in this legislative judiciary drama that we have seen. And the question that we're asking today on Key Point is whether these measures announced really are having any significant impact as we speak. Well, UTAG this week took a decision subject to the approval of their members that they should call off the strike. The University of Ghana chapter of UTAG say that they will not call off the strike. Well, are other universities also going on that path? That's the question that we're asking as well this morning. We'll have a conversation on Galamsey. We're not taking our eyes off that ball in the midst of everything that's happening. So welcome to Key Point. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. As always, my guests will join me. We'll have a conversation. My name is Alfred Okansi. Welcome.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia #1 on the ballot.
Welcome to Rehoboth Palms, Ayimensa, where your future home is taking shape. Discover a community like no other, designed for families and individuals seeking comfort and connection. Enjoy a host of amenities, including a swimming pool, tennis courts, kids' playground, and serene sitting areas, all designed for your enjoyment. Embrace the opportunity to be part of this vibrant community with flexible installment plans available. Your dream home is waiting at Rehoboth.
One choice, multiple styles, all big, all unique.
Santex and Crown Paints. excellent paint that is resistant to peeling, mold, algae, and fungus. It comes in a wide range of colors with high opacity, high spread rate, and dries fast with no afterpaint stench. Santex and Crown Paints are distributed by Bamson Company Limited. Locate us at Sickens House, Old Fatima Road, South Industrial Area, Accra, or any of our branches in Atabraka, East Legon, Tema, and Adum in Kumasi. Call or WhatsApp us on 0573839640. Santex and Crown Paint. It's not just paint, it's personal.
Colgate Herbal is formulated from unique natural herbs to strengthen teeth and keep gums healthy. Try Colgate Herbal, scientifically proven for strong teeth and healthy gums. This advert is FDA approved.
Mama, stop worrying. How is Kobna? I got some of his medication. His friends are raising funds to support us.
The kidney disease has taken the toll. But my son and our finances.
Mama, there is hope. The pharmacist told me about Mahama's policies on chronic diseases. John Mahama is going to establish the Mahama Cares Fund to support Ghanaians with kidney diseases, sickle cell, cancer, diabetes, hypertension, and other heart conditions to support and ease the financial burden on families like ours. Mama, but that is not all. Ghanaians can access free health care when they go to the CHIPS compound, health centers, clinics, and polyclinics. Mama, we have to vote wisely for Kobna's sake. Mama, wipe your tears. Wipe your tears. Mahama cares.
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
This Sunday on Hot Issues.
We have emphasized the point that the right and the freedom of protest belongs to every Ghanaian.
Reflecting on the incident, do you think it was a reckless thing you did?
I think that it is reckless to deny citizens of their rights.
Oliver, what do you want? Why do you do what you do?
I don't understand why we as a society can watch our environment being pillaged to this level. The demand for dignity, we cannot be tired of that. When leaders promise something and they fail at it, they give us an indication that they are people whose words matter to them.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
If you're a true warrior, competitions do not scare you. In fact, it is through the competition that warriors and greatness is created.
Last year we were here, but we just came to rehearse. But this year, we came with all the drinks.
So keep your eyes glued on Vacant this year. We are winning this time around.
We are going straight to the finals.
When the women are cooking, it's normally the usual, but this time we'll be having all the guys come around to cook.
We are about to find out which other two will make it to the grand finale.
Kitchen Wars is brought to you by Kivo Foods, Everpack, Mazim Foods, Miss Cookie Spices, Chana Shito.
This man over the last 50 years has dedicated his life to taking care of your skin. What do you do exactly?
The skin specialist, actually, the first doctor relied on your skin. And our mothers, don't you see that without stethoscope, they're able to tell you that you are this kind. And your skin, for heaven's sake, is your passport to society.
And he is a strong Nkrumahist.
When I came in 74, he brought in a chair and said, sit there.
Okay.
I sat there. He said, you know, this is the very chair I put in Nkrumah. Never let see people die.
The Day Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Cowbell Coffee, Onga.
Here to win! What do you call a baby fish?
1,000.
Which year was the first iPhone released?
2014.
What is the chemical symbol for gold? Yeah, well, the Lord has done it.
Here to win Win shows Sundays at 4 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Kivo 4-in-1 Curry Mix, Kivo 100% natural hot pepper,
Heaven Black Mosquito Spray and Co.
Oh, Papa baby. Oh, Papa. He's a journalist, a broadcaster all round.
This thing, what people will term as Frefre Kobo, would be very difficult for us to get a winsome side.
Wow, you can balance the economy. Your balance game be strong, oh.
Showbiz 360 shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Betway. Winner big.
Cowbell Coffee.
Drug abuse does not only affect the individual, but also has far-reaching implications on public health. From morbidities to mortalities to increased crime rates and even strain on our healthcare systems, the repercussions are staggering.
Globally, more than 11.8 million deaths are recorded each year as a result of drug misuse. From drug addiction to self-medication, the causes are numerous.
That is why you need to join us on Ask Your Pharmacist as we serve you a buffet of expert advice on your health and personalized care, with some doses of healthy living tips from our experienced pharmacists and other healthcare professionals.
So tune in to your award-winning health show, Ask Your Pharmacist, your prescription for a healthier lifestyle, every week right here on the station.
My name is Farm Nelin Ofori.
My name is Farm Dr. Yao Mfuafu.
And I am Queen Na Ayeli. Together, we bring you the season 4 of your favorite health show, Ask Your Pharmacist.
Ask Your Pharmacist Season 4 is proudly brought to you by Dragnet, the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, in partnership with the Ministry of Health and supported by
Ask Your Pharmacist shows Sunday at 1:30 p.m. on TV3.
Oh, welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com and a number of radio stations across the country. Now, this week, all eyes were on Parliament again. On Tuesday, the Speaker paired the NPP and NDC MPs had deferred whatever next decision they were going to take to the declaration of the Speaker on this Supreme Court directive through that ex parte application by Alexander Apenyomakin to have the execution of the Speaker's decision stayed. Well, the conversation about whether the Supreme Court can or could have done that or does have the powers and the jurisdiction to do that is a conversation that has been raging on for quite a while. But before that sitting, which we eventually saw what happened on Tuesday, the NPP caucus in Parliament took a decision. And this was it. Alexander Apenyomakin speaking to journalists before the Speaker's arrival. Take a look. And that decision that was taken by the NPP caucus to have them stay in their offices until the Speaker's decision was delivered. In fact, there are many who, after that decision, eventually communicated by the Speaker, thought that what next will it be for the NPP MPs? Now we do know what the Speaker has communicated and what the next decision will be after his lawyers are now studying what has been sent to the Supreme Court and what the Supreme Court has said that he should do. This was a decision that was taken by the NPP MPs.
MPP is for peace. MPP is for peace of Ghana. We will not allow anybody to disturb the peace of the country. It is a notorious fact that we remain the majority caucus of this parliament. You, the media, must add your voice to the advocacy to compel our colleagues to respect the fidelity of the law. I have heard a respected colleague on their side, Honorable Dr. Ayini, calling on Mr. Speaker to respect the Supreme Court decision. If that is true, then that's a noble call from him. Dr. Ayeni is somebody I respect because of his respect for the law. I believe that moderates on the side of NDC will prevail on the horse in their party to call them to order. So I would want to thank you for being with us. We are leaving this chamber peacefully into our offices. I wait Mr. Speaker's arrival, and if he calls leadership and we do precedent discussions, we'll take it up from there. But for now, that lawless theater will not share with them, because Ghana, our country Ghana, is bigger than any one individual. So we would want to, at this point, sing our party's anthem to let you know who we are. Colleagues, we are the party, we are the new patriotic party.
Well, after singing that anthem, the Speaker arrived. But upon the arrival of the Speaker, the NPP MPs were still not in the chamber. They were in their offices observing proceedings on their television sets in their offices. And the Speaker delivered his decision based on what was happening in the House and what he had been now notified. He indicated he had been notified finally of that Supreme Court decision, and he has directed his lawyers to respond accordingly. This is the Speaker of Parliament, Right Honourable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman.
I note that we currently have a quorum to transact business, but not to take decisions. In view of the current circumstances, the fact that there is a question on the composition and constitution of Parliament, and having regard to the public interest and the exigencies of the state of affairs in Parliament, I will proceed to, in accordance with Standing Orders 59, adjourn the House indefinitely. That is sine die.
So Parliament has been adjourned as we speak indefinitely. And the Speaker made reference to the standing orders, and we're going to put that on the screen right now, and the composition of Parliament as of the time. In fact, before the declaration of the Speaker, this was how the representation of Parliament's numerical strength was. 137 with Anin Benekande, who had decided to do business with the NPP, which then gave them that the slimmest majority we have seen in the Fourth Republic. Then after the Speaker's declaration, we saw the NDC caucus now having the majority with 136 as against the NPP's 135 because the 3 seats that were lost based on the Speaker's declaration. Per the standing orders, you needed half of the members of Parliament hearing present and voting to take a decision. On Tuesday, the members who were in Parliament, the MPs, the number of them, fulfilled this one. But based on the outcome of the Speaker's decision, even though a quorum was formed, they cannot or couldn't have gone ahead to still do the business of the House. And he was left with no option than to adjourn Parliament. The next day, NPP MPs, led by the second deputy whip of the NPP caucus, sent a memo to Parliament, in fact, to the Speaker, in the notice of a meeting by request under Article 112(3) and Order 53 of the Standing Orders of the Parliament of Ghana, essentially asking that, based on Standing Order 53, they formally requesting a meeting of the signatories of members based on their request to ensure clarity and emphasis, the legal foundation of the said request. They drew the Speaker's attention to Article 112(3) of the 1992 Constitution, which states, and I quote, "Notwithstanding any other provision of this article, 15% of members of Parliament may request a meeting of Parliament, and the Speaker shall, within 7 days after the receipt of the request, summon Parliament." 2. Standing Order 53(1) reiterates, despite any other provision, 15% of the members of Parliament may request a meeting of Parliament, and the Speaker shall, within 7 days after the receipt of the request, summon Parliament. The reference Standing Order 53(2), Parliament shall convene within 7 days after the issuance of the notice of summons. Standing Order 57(3), the Speaker may summon a sitting of the House before the date or time to which the House has been adjourned, or at any date or time after the House has been adjourned sine die. So, this is the request that was sent by some NPP MPs, led by the second deputy whip. There's a development to this request. From what we do know now, a Ghanaian businessman, Benjamin Yemotete, has also filed a lawsuit in the High Court seeking judicial endorsement of the Speaker, Aban Bagben's decision to declare the 4 seats vacant, arguing that the move aligns with Ghana's constitutional stipulations. In fact, Benjamin Tete is seeking a number of reliefs: an interlocutory injunction restraining and preventing the embattled MPs from holding themselves out as MPs in the 8th Parliament, and also having access to the chamber until the final determination of the suit. A declaration that the Speaker's ruling on October 17 was in accordance with Article 97(1)(g) and (h), and was therefore valid. Essentially asking that for as long as the Speaker, in terms of the reference to the constitutional provisions and the standing orders of Parliament, was right, this emergency recall, if it should so happen, the 4 MPs who were affected should not be allowed in the chamber. That's one of the cardinal demands of Benjamin Tete, this businessman, who is seeking an interlocutory injunction against the Speaker, calling Parliament for any emergency recall. Well, the issues are unfolding right before our eyes. And Dr. Rashid Rahman is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He is joining us right now. Dr. Rashid Rahman, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Also joining us this morning is Dr. Zato, is not just a policy and governance analyst, also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department. Dr. Zato, good morning. Welcome to KeyPoints.
Good morning, thank you.
And as also stated here, he is a member of the New Patriotic Party. Also joining us is Dr. Srem Sai. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School. Dr. Srem Sai, good morning. Welcome to KeyPoint.
Good morning.
Also joining us in a bit, we'll have the Member of Parliament for the Yape Sol constituency. Also joining us to have a conversation on this matter, Honorable John Jenapo will be joining us in a bit. Also, would have the Old Tafo Member of Parliament joining us for a conversation, Vincent Eko Asefwa, who is also a private legal practitioner. But gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to KeyPoint.
Good morning. Good morning.
Great. Start off with you, Dr. Rashid Rahman. With everything that's happened in Parliament now, one Parliament, two majority leaders, and how the state of affairs is now. And you told me about a week ago that it's troubling, to say the least. Has the trouble reduced in any way?
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to my co-panelists here and our viewers. I don't think the troubles have reduced. In contrast, I think we are seeing what I witnessed many years ago in Malawi when a good friend of mine became Speaker, a very excellent Speaker of Parliament, accomplished constitutional lawyer and finance minister in Malawi. And his tenure was characterized by some of what we are beginning to see here. And he went down as one of the worst speakers of Parliament in Malawi. His challenge was that, you know, the gridlock and all the problems started right at the beginning of his mandate. We are lucky that in this country, what we are seeing now is towards the end of the mandate of this Parliament. You know, since the beginning of the 8th Parliament, we've seen instances where our parliamentarians and sometimes people they work with from a distance are very eager to use the rules to govern the way the House conducts its business. And here, when I say to use the rules, I mean, you just gave us an example where the standing orders and the Constitution have been invoked to recall Parliament. We've seen this happen many times in this 8th Parliament. We've seen also our members of Parliament and sometimes individuals outside Parliament running very quickly to the courts, you know, to try to interpret the work of Parliament. It is all fine, Alfred. I mean, we have to stick to the rules. But, you know, let's take one step back and think about a parliament. A parliament is supposed to be a deliberative body And the reason why we have the 275 people representing all of us is just simply to avoid a situation where, assuming all the 35 million or so Ghanaians, we all go and sit in a chamber and we want to deliberate.
Yes.
I mean, it's going to be very difficult to come to any agreement. So we say 275 people go and represent us, and at all times try and talk and come to some compromise and agree on how the direction, what direction of affairs our country should pursue. It does not suggest that it's going to be easy at all times. It doesn't at all. And that is why we have leaders. But what we are seeing now is that the least challenge, then people will run to the court. The least challenge, people would start invoking the rules. It's fine, but it simply means that tomorrow, when somebody is also not pleased, they will just invoke the rule just to frustrate. You know, it's the same thing like, I mean, the filibuster system that exists in the United States, where somebody can just get up in the Senate and start talking and talking and talking just non-stop, just to frustrate the process. But they have mechanisms to stop that. In our system, I don't think we have some of those mechanisms, which suggests that, you know, when things become difficult, we expect our leaders to sit down and talk. A few weeks ago, I was talking to a senior MP when Parliament was being recalled, and all the issues around the dome and the chamber is not ready and so on. And I said to him, you know, the way I see recalls happen in this Parliament, if we are not careful, we wake up someday for a very simple reason. People would go and marshal the numbers. I mean, 15% is not difficult to arrive at.
Indeed.
And then the Speaker's hands will be tied, and the Parliament has to be recalled. I mean, at, you know, extreme cost to the nation, and so on and so forth. And if you do that for one, you would not have any reason not to do that for another. You know, so all to say, Alfred, it looks as if the troubles are not going away. Rather, they are beginning to become more serious. And it looks as if also, I mean, we have a lawyer, I mean, amongst us here, so maybe he might be able to tell us. The more I read the situation, the more I think that maybe our constitution, the way it's framed by, I mean, the framers, and the way some of the provisions are made, have been designed to make the work of Parliament a little bit more difficult.
Really? Why is that?
Well, I mean, if, as some say, we look at the constitutional provision in 97 G and H, I'm not a lawyer, but like somebody said, even if you give that to children, they can read it and understand exactly what it means. But somebody, and I mean, and you hear lawyers argue that no, that's not the case. What we are reading is not what we are seeing, and that's not the meaning. So for me, it means that one, as well as many other articles that I believe are candidates for the revision, if we ever get to the point where we are revising our constitution, would have to be given more clarity, so that all of us can read it and we can all be on the same page. That
there will be no confusion.
Yes, that 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 1 is not 2.5 or 3, and so on and so forth. Because if we go back to the basics, I mean, the idea of the separation of powers, I mean, you know, is simply that you want to divide the functioning of government among three kind of different groups: the presidency, the legislature, and the judiciary. But some checks are introduced in there to make sure that, you know, The courts, for instance, can declare what the president does and what parliament does wrong. But, I mean, I think the lawyers will say unconstitutional. So if you are saying it is wrong, you have to show us what constitutional provision that has breached so that it's in clear terms. Then everybody is supposed to abide by the law. Then the president can veto the work of parliament, but not perhaps in a way that we say to parliament, cease and desist and don't bring this here. But I mean, using the rules that we all agree on, and then parliament can also impeach the president and or maybe censure his ministers and so on. But it looks like this is becoming a little bit difficult for us. And Alfred, that's why, you know, many countries today, if you go to, I mean, a lot of the European countries, I mean, they have opted to go with, you know, a Westminster type of government where, you know, sometimes it's very difficult to see some of these challenges that we are seeing in the kind of separation that we operate here.
Okay. So you're sharing that concern about the Supreme Court's directive to Parliament, in fact, to the Speaker, for that matter, to have the execution of his decision stayed, especially because of the doctrine of the separation of powers, to the extent that subsequent even rulings have sought to make that quite clear.
Yes, you know, I share in that, I mean, the Supreme Court, and clearly because we operate, I mean, a system of separation of powers, the court have the powers of judicial review, as the lawyers will say. But these are normally used very rarely. These are used very rarely. And when they are used, they are supposed to provide clarity rather than confusion. You know, because we are all supposed to be law-abiding. Once we sign up and say we are a democratic country, we are supposed to be all law-abiding, so that the Supreme Court, as they say, has the final say when it comes to matters of law. And when it says that, then all of us are supposed to be, I mean, we'll fall in line whether you like it or not. But, you know, where, again, the outcome of the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, you know, raises a lot of questions, rather than provide clarity, then you get yourself in the kind of situation that we find ourselves in.
You see, and we're going to come to whether there was confusion or clarity for that matter, and that's one of the major reasons why Dr. Justice Shremsai is here. But Dr. Justice, this also borders on essentially governance for that matter, and especially because if Parliament and indeed the Speaker communicates a decision based on the provisions of the Constitution and also makes reference to a precedent that had been set. And now we are at this point where you would have two persons holding themselves up as majority leaders of the same Parliament. And the business of Parliament has had to come to a halt, adjourned indefinitely, because the Speaker had no option, from what we saw on Tuesday, to go on that path. Who suffers?
Thank you very much, and good morning to all your listeners and to all my friends and colleagues listening from Tumu. I say, I have to greet them in my local so they will know that I'm on TV.
It makes sense.
Very important.
Right.
Okay. I want to start your question by also asking another classical question, which is one of the foundational studies on the plurality system of decision making. There's a question posed by one of the greatest governance scholars, Robert Dahl. He has a very simple question: who governs? Robert Dahl's who governs theory tries to find out in a city where it seems that people think that the elites, only the elites govern, that government has so much power, but in reality, who actually governs? It was one of the seminal studies that even today, students of public policy and progressive democracy try to understand, to know how power in the democracy is rather dispersed to so many people, and that not only one person has the power to rule. If you keep who governs at the background, and then you begin to ask yourselves, these incidents of somebody crossing carpet and either losing a seat or not, how did they come about? There are historical precedents in Ghana. If you go back to especially the Lemani years, and even some of the Busia years and other years, instances where MPs were voted, they came to the House, those MPs came, and then either because of political convenience or whatever it is, for one we said, cross carpet. And those cross carpets were consequential. Those cross carpets, some of them even led to fact. There are people who think that the Leman administration in particular was weak. And part of it was because of some of the behaviors of some of these MPs and some other people and other regimes. So the idea is that it created, for one of the way, a rather unstable parliament that affected the governance. So if you look clearly at the historical incidents, and if you look at it through a political lens, the framers of the current constitution were trying to avoid similar incidents where there is a president and then some members in parliament, due to their personal, parochial, or political interest, decide to, for one of the way, cross carpet to that side, making the work in the House impossible for an executive president or for the president. And so you must keep, if we keep that historical incidents in mind, they would then understand that there was an intention that there has to be that attempt of what? Crossing the carpet. And making it impossible or very difficult for the party with the majority, in other words, the party that the Ghanaians have voted for to govern. And that crossing of the carpet should have a quantitative, above a quantitative effect on the governance of the state. That means that it is seen that crossing of the carpet, theoretically at least, should have an effect on how the nation is being governed. That means that if that crossing of the carpet prevents, let's say, a president from passing his budget, if that crossing of the carpet prevents a president from having his ministers approved by parliament, if that crossing of the carpet prevents a president from having from approving a loan or a government bill, that means that there is a material and a quantitative effect, negative effect on governance. It was supposed to then prevent this kind of thing from happening. So that we don't come in and then, look, as I said, we can always give the examples, and as my brother was talking about in the United States, where it takes one senator to filibuster something, and then you realize the whole government is brought to what? A stand. So it was supposed to prevent that kind of thing from happening. So if you look at those two, if you look at the idea of who governs, and if you look at that historical incident of the fact that there was supposed to be either the threat of or the reality of the disruption of government business, then you can see that there has to be that physical, quantitative move across the so-called proverbial carpet from that to happen. And that the constitutional framers were trying to prevent and being reminded of hindsight to prevent that from happening. Then the third thing we have to add, and sometimes this happens. I was talking to a student on campus yesterday. We do not practice parliamentary sovereignty or supremacy in Ghana. We do not. Ultimate power in Ghana does not lie with parliament. Ultimate power in Ghana lies with the constitution. In the United Kingdom, they have parliamentary superiority. That means that whatever the parliament, the UK parliament says is the law. The UK parliament has the final say. In Ghana, we do not.
Well, I've heard that argument as to whether that can be generally or flatly, as it were, abused. Is one that we will subject to the legal conversation.
Fine. So I'm talking from the political perspective. We can have the legal perspective because I'm not training in the law. So in Parliament, that is why in the UK, it used to be said that when the Parliament of the UK is sitting down, they can turn a man into a woman, literally, whatever the law they make is permanent. But that in Ghana, we don't have that. In Ghana, then the constitution is, and that's why we all office holders swear to uphold and defend the constitution of Ghana. And so, if you then have that kind of thing, that is where the separation of powers then comes from. And as my brother was saying, that look, a president can refuse to sign a bill signed by Parliament, and then in the same time, Parliament can impeach a president removed from office. Our constitution also then envisaged that we are going to have this constant knocking of heads between the executive and the legislature. It envisages that. The Constitution also buys and budgets for the fact that these battles are going to continue, and in fact, they will continue whether you have a supermajority in Parliament, whether you have a minority in Parliament, or whether the Parliament is split. And that is why you then need a neutral arbiter. You then need somebody to be able to say that, look, this is where we draw the line and this is where it comes. So for me, with the idea that the Parliament is not supreme, then it then means that we need somebody who can then, for one to be either be an adult in the room or somebody who can say that this is where the line is drawn. Let's just understand something. Parliament is hyper-partisan. Parliament is all about political showboating. Whatever happens in Parliament is about politics. It's about partisanship. And so people in Parliament are not necessarily there to fight for what their national interests. But sometimes the partisan interests come in. Sometimes the ideological interests come in. Sometimes the philosophical interest comes inside. And Parliament is all about power. And so when you have all these things going on, then it then becomes important for us to understand that somebody or the Supreme Court then start out to make these things. And that is why I think that it's important that when something is of this magnitude happens, then we need a finality. And that's why for me, I'm happy that this issue is before the Supreme Court. And I'm happy and I'm hoping to wait for the Supreme Court to rule, to bring a finality to this. Because from a political perspective, I personally think that Speaker Michael Quay was wrong.
Why was... You believe that Speaker Michael Quay was wrong?
Yes.
At the time...
At the time he did it, I believe it was wrong to just come out and at least one person alone to declare that I believe that he was wrong from a political perspective. But the thing was that because that ruling did not have any material, quantitative, qualitative difference, as in the majority of the MPs was so much that it never affected the Business House, we ignored it. And that precedent has been followed right now.
Well, if you say you probably ignore, there are some persons at the time who spoke, but their voices were in the minority, so it wasn't listened to. But a majority of your members, your party members, hailed the Speaker at the time for that decision that he took. Which has now become a precedent.
Yes, I'm not speaking for them. I'm speaking for myself. And I'm saying that that decision was wrong. And I think that the reason why that decision did not metamorphose and finally make it the Supreme Court was because materially it did not make an impact because the majority of the people was that strong. And so it didn't have any effect. And I think that today, this decision is so consequential because it has both a qualitative and a quantitative difference in that it directly changes the power dynamics in the House. So in that, so for me, it's the one decision that was wrong and this one then we didn't need. That is where I think that where the Supreme Court comes in, and that's where I think that we need to understand. Now it gets to something that it gets into. When the Speaker of Parliament came to the House, I don't know whether he made any pronouncement on the ruling of the Supreme Court.
He did not.
That means that he ignored the ruling of the Supreme Court. Is that fair to say that he acknowledged? No, it was not. The decision was not for you to either acknowledge its existence or not.
So he acknowledged that he had received.
Yes. Now, again...
What declaration were you expecting from him?
No, what I'm saying is that did he accept the decision or he rejected the decision?
Was he supposed to do that in Parliament on Tuesday?
No, as I said, the Supreme Court says that stop what you are doing. The Supreme Court said,
the Supreme Court did not say he should stop. He said the execution of this decision should be stayed until the final determination of the case.
So what was the execution of the decision? What was the execution of the decision? The execution, that's what I'm saying. Again, Doc is here, he may educate on the law. From the political perspective, he says that you said that these people have been what? Removed from the House. Or these people no more belong here. So power saying, the four of them. That was the decision. So if the Supreme Court says stay that decision, I mean, what does that mean?
And you think that the Supreme Court has...
No, I'm not saying I think. I'm saying that what does that mean? If you say that these people have been, let me use a word as legal, you are sacked from this classroom. And the Supreme Court says, don't do that. Stay that decision. If that is what you're saying. If the Supreme Court says, then it means that don't sack them.
So that's what I'm saying, that you are saying you are expecting the Speaker to have made
To now say that, look, so if you were not, so that's what I'm saying.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting to say that, okay, the Supreme Court says I shouldn't sack this people from Parliament, or I shouldn't claim, so I'm not sacking them from Parliament. Or the Supreme Court says I shouldn't sack this people, but I think that I have the power to sack them, so I'm going to continue and keep them. At least, I think that some of us deserve that amount of clarity.
Okay.
It never came.
So just, I don't know if you did listen to him on Tuesday, but he was quite clear that he acknowledged the receipt of the service, and indicated he had referred it to his lawyers.
Yeah. So again,
he has to put he has to put in a response, and that response should not be done on the floor of Parliament. I hope you follow me.
No, I don't.
You based on a service that has been given, or a directive to him, that stay, and this was a legal one for that matter, and he has directed his lawyers to look into it and respond. You are expecting that the Speaker will sit in Parliament and declare that, yes, I will, or no, I won't? Wouldn't that have rather furthered the chaos that we're all seeking to prevent?
As I said, from my perspective, that is what I thought that was going to happen. Because I'm looking at another precedent being set. There are a lot of cases before the Supreme Court now. Some of them directed squarely at the executive arm of government. Some of them directly at the President of the Republic, asking for this. So I'm beginning to ask myself a question. What if tomorrow the same Supreme Court was to make a ruling, and then the President of the Republic too says, you know what, I'm going to ignore it? What happens to our Republic?
Can I also maybe just interject here, just to ask Prof. Very simple question. Yes, okay. Yeah. So, especially making reference to the presidency and so on. Again, like he rightly said, both he and I, we are political scientists, so we are not educated in the law. And that's why, Alfred, last week I said I wasn't going to make any pronouncements because I don't know the law. So I don't want to fall foul of the law. But we saw a situation where recently, I mean, there were bills that were passed by Parliament, and then somebody ran to the court, and the presidency says, don't bring this here because the matter is before court until
LGBTQ.
Yes, until the matter is resolved. And I could see some parallels here with what the speaker is. I mean, what the speaker did on that day. Apart from the fact that, I mean, for me, the most important is the national interest that he took into account when he was making that decision. Look, our country was on a brink. Seriously, on that day, our country was on a brink. And I...
So you think that any declaration of the Speaker would have actually furthered the chaos?
Certainly, without a doubt.
Again,
without a doubt.
I think I was making...
Yes, you conclude on your point.
The two things you say, you are conflating two different things.
Oh, what is that?
You are conflating. In the case he's talking about, the Supreme Court had not made any declaration. In the LGBTQ, the Speaker has not yet made... The Supreme Court has not told anybody to, is it cease or stop? No. That has not been made. It has not been. In this particular case, the Supreme Court has. So I'm asking myself, did the decision of the Supreme Court have any impact?
Well,
so that's the difference. I don't know what you understand. But, okay. In that case, somebody ran to the Supreme Court to try to seek a refuge. But the court has not yet decided on that. But in this particular case, at least from a political perspective and a separation of powers perspective, the Supreme Court has made an independent decision from this. They have granted whatever the person went to look for. So that is what I'm saying. Because it says a dangerous president. Today, and that's where I'm coming. The same speaker is before the Supreme Court in the LGBTQ case. What happens if today that Supreme Court too was ruled and then the president of the Republic said, you know what, I'm not going to expect it. I'm going to let to my lawyers think about it and they not do it. Where are we going?
No.
Okay. So for me, that is the way I'm understanding it. That's the way, because it is the same thing, the same Supreme Court making decisions. And if you can now choose either one, to accept the Supreme Court decision, or two, when to accept that decision, when to accept it. Because I thought, again, I mean, we did that when the Supreme Court makes a decision, it's now. This is our decision, you take it. I don't know that you can have a choice to say that, well, you know what, I will think about it and then I will know whether I can accept it later on. Maybe it's possible.
No,
maybe it's possible.
What you are saying, you're saying he's thinking about it. That's why I was very clear in the communication of the speaker on that day, that he's referred the matter to his lawyers to respond. Under our law, any court directing a stay of execution is automatically stayed for 7 days. The applicant can enforce it only after 7 days. Last Tuesday was within the 7-day rule, within which the order was frozen. So the speaker did not do anything wrong.
Fine. Again, as I said, you're coming from a legal person, I'm coming from a political person. So, because sometimes the appearance of it, because I'm beginning to ask myself, therefore, we've had I looked at something, even throughout the numerous years of the Jerry John Rawlings administration, both in the military and in the civilian, I don't think he has ever refused any order from the Supreme Court, or even for the courts in general. They've had so many battles. So I'm hoping that, just as precedents are being set, that no executive precedent sees what is happening now and now begin to think that there's a precedent that I can choose to accept a Supreme Court decision or not to accept it. I'm hoping that precedent is not set. I'm hoping that, and for me, that is what worries me, because especially now, we are in an election year. And if the last 2-3 elections are anything to go by, they all ended up the Supreme Court. I don't want a situation where we wake up one day, and then the Supreme Court rules us, and then the president is now deciding whether he should or he can accept it. No, I'm praying and hoping that we get to the same way when the Supreme Court makes a decision, it becomes supreme, it becomes ultimate. Because once that happens, the finality we have, as I said, the Supreme Court all over the world, and not only in Ghana, have their weaknesses, have their strengths, have their prejudices, have their biases. They have all these things. But every mature democracy then understands that we have to rule a line somewhere, and that somewhere has always been what the Supreme Court said.
Well,
the moment we now try to begin, I hope we don't get there. I hope we don't get a situation where people now try to treat the Supreme Court as a buffet. Okay, I will choose this over this, I will accept this over this. I hope we do not get there. And I hope what is happening here doesn't become a precedent that another speaker one day now begin to choose, because the moment we do that, we are getting into really dangerous territory, and that will not be good for this republic, and that will not be good for our democracy. So for me, that is my prayer. That's my whole prayer. Legally, it may not be so, and I'm sure that you're putting that in, but politically, I'm beginning to see that, because you see, power corrupts, and absolute power will always corrupt absolutely. And where people know and think that they can now maneuver with these things, politically, it may be difficult for all of us. Well, so it shouldn't be that. Finally, I want to I think myself within my time.
Yes,
when I look at some of the things that are happening before the Parliament, people were worried. Are we going to have another January 7th, 2020? Are we going to see blows being thrown? Are we going to see fisticuffs? Are we going to see people literally beating each other up in that Parliament? And then are we going to have the military? Are we going to see that? People were bracing for it. The majority leader, Honorable Alexander Afenya-Maken,
well, you can safely say the NPP leader
saved us. He saved the country from that spectacle. He called for restraint. He demonstrated leadership. He demonstrated maturity. And he demonstrated decorum by pulling his forces back. We never saw that spectacle. And for me, the whole country, I think the whole country took a sigh of relief that spectacle. Because remember, it doesn't matter whether somebody was legally wrong or legally right. That spectacle, if it had happened, would have been one of the worst days in our political history. Anybody that is able to say that no matter what happens, I'm going to restrain myself. I'm going to show that we should. And in our politics, we should begin celebrating such moves. Because sometimes a small move like that prevents worse things from happening. And for him to be able to say that, look, whatever be the case, we'll fight this another time. We are not finished. We are not throwing the towel. We'll fight another time. But for now, and for the sanity of the state, and for the sanity of the young ones watching, and for the sanity of our democracy, I'm going to pull my forces back. I'm going to show restraint. That is worth celebrating.
Well, let me bring in Dr. Justice Shermsai on this. In fact, you said a number of things, and so separating them is going to be quite a task, but I'll do the best I can. From the position of the law and that argument that the Speaker, in the view of Dr. Jato, should have said something about the Supreme Court. I mean, this is not a ruling. It was more of a directive, so to speak, to him to stay the execution of the decision that he had communicated, declaring those 4 seats vacant. Was that a lawful request to make?
Thank you very much. Before I answer this question, I think there's something we need to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that sometimes we over-legalize simple matters. And this conversation around this particular issue is one of such situations where we have over-legalized the issue. And when you over-legalize issues, what happens is that you miss out on the fundamental issue or the fundamental purpose of what we are even discussing. What is before us? It is a simple question of, do we want people who are on a ticket of a political party to, while still on the ticket of that political party, be contesting against the interests of that party? You see, when you strip this issue of all the legalities and all the arguments and all the forum, this is a simple matter of whether as a people, as a country, as a nation, we are interested or we want people who have gone out to campaign on the ticket of a political party or a political vehicle based on ideology, after assuming the seats, to then decide that while they are still sitting on that seat representing a particular political interest, could then shift and be contesting against the interests of that political party. And I think when we look at the issue from this perspective, it becomes very clear that the legalities don't matter. Now, the reason why we should...
Oh, gentlemen, yes. No, please. Yes.
Yeah. So, now, we have to look at certain principles that we have adopted as a people ourselves. We opted for multi-party democracy. What does that mean? What it means is that we as a people have decided that we don't want all of us to follow one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We want people to have choices between political ideas, between political solutions, and between national matters. That is why we have multi-party democracy. This is guaranteed in the Constitution to the extent that even if someone tries to form a one-party state, the Constitution says that Parliament doesn't even have the power to make such a law.
Right.
And that is how much we value multi-party democracy. Mm-hmm. Then again, when you go back to the Constitution tells us about conflict of interest, which simply means that we should not put ourselves as public officials in a position where our interests or we will be conflicting two different interests. And then apart from that, the Constitution further goes on to say that a person can only belong to one political vehicle or political party at a time. These are all express provisions in the Constitution. So to my mind, when you tell me that we should allow, when you ask me the question whether we should allow someone to be on a ticket of one political party, mm-hmm. okay, and at the same time be contesting the interests of that political party with another vehicle, it is not a difficult question for me to answer. It is that I don't think taking all this into consideration, this is not what I think the framers of the
Article
Constitution.
97.1.
Yeah, this is not what.
So essentially,
now let me go back to your question that you asked.
Cynthia Morrison cannot stay in this 8th Parliament as an NPP member, as she has so declared that she's going to contest Agona West as an independent candidate.
I subscribe to the view that you cannot be a member of one political party,
mm-hmm.
and at the same time be contesting the interests of that political party.
Because there's a candidate for the MPP.
Exactly. In fact, the various political parties acknowledge the point I'm making. Mm-hmm. That is why if you go through their constitutions, they have stated it clearly that you forfeit. And when we say there's a difference between saying you'll be expelled and you forfeit. When we say you forfeit, it means that you have left, you have abandoned so it's not in anyone's action. We don't need further ceremony for you to leave. It means that so even the political parties themselves subscribe to what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The Constitution prescribes what I'm saying. So if you strip this issue of all the legalities and all the Supreme Court and all this is the simple issue before us. Now, beyond that, let's come to the Speaker. Let me address the issue about whether the Speaker, what the Speaker could have done on, was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Which is the question you asked me.
Yes, but even before that, so you subscribe to the position that Article 97 does not create any ambiguity or confusion in the mind of anybody, if you're even seeking to understand it.
It doesn't create any ambiguity, and if it does, the resolution of that ambiguity should be in favor of what the political parties themselves have put in their constitutions, what the Constitution has said in about 3 different provisions.
Right.
And you need to read the Constitution as a whole. You cannot just pick one provision and then separate end and or and say that you have interpreted the Constitution. So that is the first point. The second point is, what would the Speaker have done? Let's examine the ruling of the court. That is the only way we will know what the Speaker would have done. Okay. The court made 2 orders. It says what? Like it put it, the execution of the declaration should be stayed. Okay? And when you use the word stay, you are assuming that there is an ongoing process which must be stayed. But if there is an event which has already happened, you would not be doing justice to that situation when you say it should be stayed. Because then stay means that after the event, whatever is the situation is must stay as it is.
Okay.
That is the first order. Then the Supreme Court went on to make a second order which says that the 4 MPs should be allowed into the House to what? To participate in the that's the second order.
Work
and do their work fully. And that's the second one. Now, the second one, so when you read the 2 together, it appears the Supreme Court is saying that we should reverse the situation. We should reverse the situation where the 4 MPs, because at the time of the order, the 4 MPs were effectively, ousted. They vacated. They've been declared. The seat have been declared vacant. So, if you want to reverse it, that will require a parliamentary decision, because the court, when the court directs a company, let's say TV3, that you should reinstate an employee that you have sacked, the court cannot itself come and reinstate the employee. It will take the management of TV3 to carry out that reversal of what? Reinstating the employee. Now, the point I'm making is that as at the time the Speaker was on the floor, the House was not properly constituted for parliamentary business, which means that even if the Speaker wanted a decision to implement the ruling or the directive of the Supreme Court, which is the reversal, it couldn't have happened because the Speaker himself is not, the Speaker doesn't take decision in Parliament unless there's a tie. The only way the Speaker comes is when there is a tie. But beyond that, it is the members of Parliament who have the power to legislate.
Even when there's a tie.
Yeah, yeah. Even so, he cannot. So you see, what I mean is that when it's split, splitting the tie,
it means it's falling.
It's falling. So great. So you see, so the Speaker himself cannot be the one to take that decision or carry out the orders of the court. It is the Parliament properly constituted. Now the question is, at the time the Speaker was speaking, and I'm referring to my very good friend here, who was saying that the Speaker has disobeyed or has ignored. The Speaker couldn't have done anything, and the House couldn't have taken a decision because at the time, the House was not properly constituted in terms of quorum for a decision making.
Just a way, I never said the Speaker disobeyed the ruling.
Okay, you were trying to say.
I didn't know he didn't make this. I said he didn't make a decision.
Yeah. So
then we're expecting him to do that.
Yes, I was expecting him to do that. I never said he disobeyed the court.
Thank you. Well, that you shouldn't drag it. But I think the point he was trying to make was that the Speaker did something wrong, and you were trying to even correct him. That was.
I was simply saying that the Speaker. I thought the Speaker should.
Okay, the point I'm making is that the Speaker could not have done anything, and Parliament could not have done anything because the House was not constituted for decision making. So we should not belabor that point. Now, when we come into the issue of separation of powers, and I think it's something that we need to all be interested in. You see, when the Americans were the ones who molded this kind of democracy which we are trying to emulate, because when they gained independence from Britain, they decided that they are not going to run the British system of government. They are going to create 3 separate arms of government, and that no one person can belong to more than one, and that the 3 arms are going to be equal. Okay. So that is the paramount thing, that the 3 arms are equal. You cannot run an effective government system if one of the arms of government becomes the headmaster for the rest. You can't run an effective, then you are back to a dictatorship. Okay. So now let's see what we can do to improve our checks and balances, the separation of power system. It appears, and I think it has been consistent within the past few years, that when a parliamentary proceeding is ongoing, some way, somehow, the matter gets before the court, and the court make orders to suggest that what is actually going on should stay pending the determination of the court. If we uphold, I'm going to create two scenarios, then we choose the one that will probably uphold separation of powers better.
Right.
If we carry on this way, and that any time there is an ongoing, deliberation in parliament, and then someone goes to court, it could be a member of parliament, it could be an ordinary citizen, goes to court, and the court will say, stay pending the determination of the matter. Eventually, what we are trying to say is that the courts can now stop parliament from doing whatever it wants to do at any time because someone has filed a suit. And even before the determination of the merit of the suit, it should be, everything that parliament is doing must be put on hold. And that must concern everyone. Everyone must be worried if that is the impression or that is the precedent we are trying to set, or that the situation of constitutional, everybody must be worried.
That's essentially what's happening.
Because my understanding of judicial review is that when parliament has done something, eventually the court have the final say as to whether the thing is constitutional or not. That question is settled. But what we are saying is not the same as what judicial review is. It's as if even while trying to do the thing, the court can stop parliament in its track, and then until the decision is finally made. I can understand situations where it will be necessary that things like that will happen. But when it becomes a habit, and even to the extent that even as soon as the person files the motion, whether the court has even looked at it or not, the argument is that there is a pending case, so I won't do anything until the court decides. And the courts often don't decide these issues, quickly. And I think we should all be concerned and be worried. I believe that parliament is a political, place, okay? And the courts are courts of law. When it comes to constitution and constitutional law, I think it is agreed among constitutional scholars and jurisprudents that a constitution is both a legal document and a political document. It is not entirely a legal document where every matter can be resolved by courts. And you see, the founder of British constitutional law, A.V. Dicey, has made this point clear that there is a conventional element of a constitution and a legal element of the constitution. And the courts have power to deal with only the legal element. And when it comes to the conventional element, which I call, the American call the political element, which is the political question, that is for politicians and voters to decide. It is not every problem that the courts can solve. And the courts will be probably assuming too much if they believe that every issue must be litigated and resolved. Then it will be contrary to any principle of constitutional law. It will be contrary to any principle of law, for that matter. So I believe
that one of such cases with what we are dealing right now that in your view, the Supreme Court really shouldn't be meddling in a political matter like this.
I wouldn't say that they are meddling or they are not meddling. My point is that the court should build a jurisprudence which entrenches the principle of separation of powers and the equality of the arms of government.
Okay.
Gradually, what we are beginning to see is not reflecting that principle.
Okay.
So my point is that sometimes we should both, even the members of parliament, we should agree that in the House it is politics. And the more you drag in the Supreme Court will look more political because parliament is a political forum where there are so many tools of resolving parliamentary issues.
Right.
There are so many tools of resolving political issues. There are few tools for resolving legal issues. So I would believe that such a matter should have been more of resolved within the House. And even if it went to the court, I was thinking that the court would take a decision which would uphold the separation of powers and the equality of the arms of government.
So this particular directive does not do that. But what we assume with the Supreme Court directive to Parliament, or in fact to the Speaker.
I believe that it does not really, it does not ensure the equality of the arms of government.
Okay.
Because it seeks to stop Parliament in its track in making a decision, and it seeks to go into the House to direct certain things, even before the merits of the matter is looked at. I don't have a problem if at the end of the day the court analyzes the entire case on its merit and says that, look, what you did was wrong, and therefore we should reverse it based on the merit. But even before deciding the merits, the court says don't do such a thing.
Based on the ex parte application.
Well, that is even another side of the ex parte when all the facts have not really been tested. And we are beginning to see that even the Hansard or the copy of the proceedings that was presented to the court was not the official copy. And also some of the arguments that were made were not really what it was. So, for example, the court found that the persons who, the 4 MPs and their constituents are being disenfranchised by the people's, removal from the House. And I was thinking, if there's any disenfranchisement, it is not the action in Parliament, because the Constitution itself says that you cannot have a by-election within a certain period, which means that the framers of the Constitution...
6 months before.
Yes, yeah. So it means that the framers of the Constitution themselves do not intend such people to be represented. When your people, change cross carpet, you cannot have a by-election. So it is not even the Parliament that is making that decision. It's the Constitution itself which says that you cannot have a vote. So when we look at some of these things, it appears that a more critical position would be that, first of all, I don't think this issue should have gone to the court in the first place. And even if you went there, I would be happy if the court, after looking at the merits of the case, decides that this is what the situation is. That is judicial review.
Well, it's still live here on Keep On. Let me just acknowledge the presence of Honorable John Jenapo, is just joining us right now, the Member of Parliament for the Upper Kusol constituency. Good morning, Jenapo. Thank you for joining us. Also, Senyor Hossi is one of the leaders of the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, and then also one that has picked up a number of causes for the greater good in this country. Senor, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, my brother.
Also, Vincent Asefua is joining us right now on Zoom. He's a Member of Parliament for the Otafo constituency. He's also a private legal practitioner. Asefua, good morning.
Good morning, Alfred.
Great. Now, so based on the, and I'll stay with you, Mr. Asefua, based on the explanation and analysis by Dr. Justice Shremsai this morning, that stay of execution, as was directed by the Supreme Court to the Speaker, was essentially mute and of no effect, because what the Supreme Court was seeking to stay had already been executed and done with. So really, what were you seeking to stay? Reason why you didn't want the Speaker's decision to be carried out or implemented?
Well, that is an interesting analogy from my respected colleague. But before then, let me attempt to highlight one or two things that he said, and probably even expand the scope of the examples that he gave. I can appreciate the point of interpretation that he put on the Article 97 and the examples that he gave. But I think that one or two things that probably was lost on him was what the constitution of the New Patriotic Party says with respect to the forfeiture. There's a process to which a candidate becomes, or if you like, a person becomes an official candidate of the New Patriotic Party. For example, in my constituency, the party constitution says that if I have to be a candidate on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, there should be primaries, and the primaries will have to be contested for by all individuals who so desire to contest. Now, issue of timing, very critical. We had our primaries in January, so did all the other candidates like Cynthia Morrison, Kodjo Asante, and what have you also had their primaries. So if you have your primaries in January, like we had ours in January, and after the primaries, you are a certain MP and you lost your primaries. What that means is that in the next parliament, you cannot be in parliament on that ticket, on that particular ticket. But if you want to get to parliament, again, it means that you may have to take another strategy. The point I'm trying to make is that these persons did not show any indication by way of their actions or inactions to leave the party on which they had earlier contested on to be in parliament after the supposed primaries. Put differently, Cynthia Morrison or Kojo Asante did not say that they are no more part of the party to which they contested on earlier to have entered parliament. But because elections is a process, and when I say it's a process, the Electoral Commission, per its constitutional instrument, will have to open a process for which anybody who wants to contest an election to be part of the next parliament will have to follow. And that process started about last month. So I filed officially at the Electoral Commission last month. So what that means is that per the actions and inactions of these persons, for the past 6, 7, 8 months, they have decided to stay in parliament as far as the rest of their term is concerned, to still stay with the party to which they came to parliament with. That is a distinguishable aspect that I want the honorable side to see. It is issue of timing. So if these persons, by their actions or inactions, had said that right after the primaries, I am no more going to do business with the party on whose ticket that I came to parliament.
Well, okay. Based on the analogy that you have just done, in the instance of the Fomena member of parliament,
right?
All of this that you have just said, really, did he make a decision that he was not going to do business with the party? He did not. Right?
No,
but
see,
yes, but then again, you went ahead and expelled him, and you wrote to the speaker to declare the seat vacant. So in this particular instance, they have also not said that they are not going to do business with their side, that's your side in the House. So why then do you think that in the case of this one, there is merit in it, but then in the case of the Fomena MP situation, which has become the precedence for this one, there is really no merit in it?
No, you see, it is distinguishable from this particular instance because in the case of the Fomena MP, the Honorable Esiame's case, there was a tussle between himself and the party. At the time, the party felt that the Honorable Esiama should not contest, or if he has decided to contest, the tussle was that, okay, if you have decided to contest, then you are no more part of our party. Of course, as the Honorable side interpreted, the forfeiture is different from you going to be expelled. And indeed, I agree with him when the party constitution says that you have been forfeited. But my point is that in the case of Cynthia Morrison, in the case of Kojo Asante, from January 2024, after the primaries, their actions and inactions in parliament have pointed to a point whereby they are still doing business with the MPP majority. But I am saying that
the Fomena MP was still doing business with you. The Fomena MP was still doing business with the MPP, even after deciding to go independent, is it not?
Yeah, but the difference is that the party had written to the Speaker of Parliament that by the actions and inactions of the Fomena MP, he is no more part of the New Patriotic Party. So that's what I'm saying, that this instance, there hasn't been any tussle or there hasn't been any disagreement. And in any case, the persons themselves over and over has indicated that I want to finish my term.
But what does the party's constitution, the NPP constitution itself, what does it say about the actions of these persons, even if the party does not write to them? Because I'm looking at the details of your constitution right now.
No. To be honest with you, I agree with the forfeiture. To be honest with you. No,
right. So then what's your argument exactly?
No, so my argument is that they have forfeited their membership with the New Patriotic Party.
Yes.
But my point is, these people were elected on that ticket or on the MPP ticket for a specific term of 4 years.
Well, but the former MP was also elected for a specific term of 4 years.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying, that there has been, or there was a tussle between the MPP as a party and the former MP at the time. The MPP felt that at the time we needed to write a letter to the Speaker of Parliament to expel him from Parliament or to stop doing business with the New Patriotic Party at the time. That is a different scenario. Well, for issues of consistency, I may want to agree with you to some extent. But the point is, the Constitution itself is supreme. And you see, that is where issues of interpretation comes in. And maybe if I may want to fall on the question that you really asked me initially. See, the MPP majority went to court, that is the Supreme Court, to invoke the original exclusive jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret Article 97. Anybody can put his interpretation on it. And that is why I'm happy that a businessman has gone to court to trigger the Article 99 of the 1992 Constitution. Probably it has not been tested before. There's an opportunity whereby you have a high court declaring a seat vacant as per Article 99. But the point I'm trying to make is that it was within the right of the New Patriotic Party to invoke the exclusive original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret Article 97, especially when we anticipated and suspected that there's going to be an action on the side of the minority, because they had already indicated on their political platforms, especially the Honorable Harry Nedris, indicated that when Parliament reconvenes, the NDC minority is going to be the majority. And so it is within my right, it is within the right of every Ghanaian. If you think that your fundamental human right is likely to be contravened, you can go to the Supreme Court or you can go to the High Court to enforce that fundamental human right. So, Alfred, the issue here is the MPP majority had a different opinion from what Dr. Sai is saying. Our opinion was that there should be an interpretation whether these people have indeed vacated their seat because of what the Speaker of Parliament said. The Speaker of Parliament gave a ruling, and I have had the occasion to say that the Speaker of Parliament at the time, even though Michael Quay did it into 2020, could have hesitated in declaring this seat vacant. But the MPP has a different opinion from what Dr. Sai is saying.
Well, that's Mr. Janapo, on this one, to the extent that he makes reference to the MPP constitution, that's Mr. Asafwa, the expulsion of a member, at least as captured in the MPP constitution, point 8. Let's put it on the screen right now. A member may be expelled from the party on grounds of misconduct in accordance with provisions of the constitution. If you go on to point 9, forfeiture of membership. Yeah. And a member of the party who stands as an independent candidate against the officially elected member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-election, automatically forfeits his or her membership of the party. So it is quite clear with your, as the MPP constitution, black and white, that it didn't even have to necessarily take the party to write to the speaker.
If it said that you'll be referred to a disciplinary committee or that you face sanctions, then the party would put in place some mechanism to activate that process. But this one is explicit. It says you automatically. So the moment you file as an independent candidate, or the moment you go against the officially elected candidate of the New Patriotic Party, you cease to be a member. So as it stands, based on their own constitution, these MPs are not members of the MPP. That is not in doubt. It's a fact. And you see, this is not an opinion. It's black and white, and you copiously read it. And I think that anybody who listens to you or reads their constitution will come to the conclusion that these are not members of the MPP. And that is why, in the Formina case, the party wrote to remind the speaker that the Formina MP is gone against our constitution, and so he is not a member. And you see, this constitution is not just for the MPP, because the MPP is a quasi-public institution. And so anybody...
It's not quasi, it is.
Well, that even makes it more serious. And you know, when Professor Michael Quay ruled in a similar instance, they were very happy with it. The MPP felt very comfortable with it. So what has changed? What has changed so much that today, the same sets of facts, an MP from the MPP decided to contest as independent candidates. They took the position that is gone against their constitution, so he should be taken out. The same thing is happening. They are saying, no, we should have written a letter before. Where in their constitution and where in the national constitution does it stipulate that the MPP as a party has to write a letter before? I mean, they are looking at the form and not the substance. And I thought that what Speaker Bagben did was to follow the precedent of Professor Michael Quay.
You said that precedent is wrong.
Who said so?
That's
I haven't heard
MPP
him say
now.
that. I haven't heard him say it's wrong.
He says he disagrees with that.
That's what he said.
He
said Professor Michael Quay was wrong.
Yes,
is that what you said? The Professor Michael Quay was wrong.
No, but yes,
no, it's a direct question.
That has been our position. That has been our position.
That has been your what?
That has been our position ever since.
That the Formina MP shouldn't have been disqualified. It shouldn't have been. His seat shouldn't have been declared vacant. Then why did you write to the speaker? If that is your position as a party, that the Formina MP should not be disqualified or his seat should not be declared vacant, why would you write to the speaker to tell the speaker to declare the seat vacant? What kind of double standard is that? That the party that believes that just because a member who is an MP is contesting as an independent candidate, the seat should not be declared vacant. At the same time, writes to the speaker to tell the speaker that declare the seat vacant because the person is going as an independent candidate. I mean, what kind of position is this? It just doesn't hold. And this is so surprising. I hope that is your personal opinion. Because the party took that position
they have held. Say they, not him.
The party. Then why would the party rather declare the seat vacant? Do you get my point? If the party believes that you don't lose your seat because as a member you are going independent, why would they even put in their constitution? And then why would the party take the next step by writing to remind the speaker that, look, a member of ours is taking the step to go as an independent candidate, so declare his seat vacant. Official. Please, let's stop. You see, this politics of convenience.
But Honorable Jinapo, the point is that you lose your membership, in my estimation and understanding, you lose your membership to contest another election on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party.
So why did you write to the speaker then?
Because you see, when you read the first sentence...
No problem. I agree with your first sentence. Why did your party write to the speaker to declare the seat vacant? Why did they do that?
But you see, Honorable Jinapo, the point I'm trying to make is that we have already disagreed with the process and even the ruling of Michael Quay at the time.
Did you disagree at the time or you are not disagreeing?
You see, Michael Quay did not declare the seat vacant. He was sitting somewhere. And you wrote to him to prompt him that he should declare the seat vacant. You get my point? Your party prompted him that, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with our constitution, the person automatically forfeits his membership. So we're asking you to take a step further by declaring his seat vacant. Your leadership, the leadership of the party wrote. It's not as if Michael Quay on his own, or even a member of Parliament petitioned Professor Michael Quay, and he declared the seat vacant. Your party, the hierarchy of your party, wrote to him. So it cannot be the case that you disagree with Professor Michael Quay when you've asked him to do what you want. And when he does what you want, you then turn around and say, I disagree with you for doing what I want. I mean, it doesn't make sense at all, with the greatest of respect.
No, but
I wish I could get a
Can I respond?
No, I'll come to you for.
I want to finish with the Supreme Court.
No, but this is a quick response to what you just said, so that you put matters into proper perspective.
No, but
we are saying that first and foremost, the Speaker of Parliament did not have the jurisdiction to rule on the matter at all. Yes, the MPP might have
petitioned him.
Speaker of Parliament. But
you know the man doesn't have jurisdiction. Why petition him?
The Speaker of Parliament per the Constitution, and if you read the Benjamin Teta case right now, that is where I see that the proper interpretation, or if you like, the proper understanding of the law, in my estimation, is being done. Where you go to the High Court per Article 99 to get the seat vacant. So yes, the MPP might have written a letter to the Speaker of Parliament.
It's not right.
But I'm saying that
I think that in putting the issues in perspective, that's what the MPP wrote to Professor Michael Quay, Speaker, to declare the Formina seat vacant.
Yes.
That happened.
Yes.
And you're saying that at the time you disagreed with him? Because I didn't hear that. I've been doing this job for quite a while.
No, but if you disagree with him, why petition him? That's the first thing.
I don't think that you want to deny as a lawyer to put an interpretation on the Constitution and the MPP Constitution as to how I understand it. I am saying that was a wrong procedure.
Okay.
Yes, the MPP might have done that, but that was a wrong procedure. I think that it was the sole responsibility of the High Court, as per Article 99, to have declared a seat vacant at the time. If something was done which was wrong in the past, it doesn't mean that if there's an opportunity to correct that wrong, we don't have to do so. Just on the altar of consistency, we cannot do so.
So that's the
and that is the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, let me win.
Mr. General, continue.
Anyway, I leave that to viewers. I leave that to viewers. I'm sure they will make a good judgment. But let's be consistent. If you want to change your position, state it. That yesterday you believed that the Speaker had the power to interpret, but today you are changing your position. But you can't say that your position had always been that the seat should not be declared vacant, when at the same time you are writing to invite the Speaker to declare the seat vacant. The two cannot be synchronized, and then that level of inconsistency is very serious. Then they rush to the Supreme Court, and I'm very worried about the Supreme Court as a member of Parliament. I'm very, very worried. First of all, the Hansard, until it's adopted by the House, is not an official record by our procedure. So what happened is that a day before, the table office would normally write what they believe is the procedure. Then at the next sitting, before we commence business, it is put to a vote. The Speaker puts the official record. We make corrections. No, Speaker, you didn't say this, you said that. This is not properly recorded. You omitted this, you added. Then we adopt it as the official record of the House. Even before that, somebody manages to take a certain record, which is not adopted. He takes it to the Supreme Court, ex parte. The Supreme Court doesn't even listen to Parliament. Because effectively what they did was to take Parliament to court. Not just the Speaker. The Speaker only represents Parliament. And it's a decision of Parliament. And the Supreme Court, based on that, makes those declarations. And that's what Doc said. Effectively, look, what the Supreme Court has said is that they will reverse this decision. If you listen to the pronouncement of the Supreme Court, effectively, that is what they are trying to do. And they bring in the issue of there can't be a by-election. Where does this come in? Where does the issue of the by-election come in? What if somebody dies? God forbid. If someone dies, what happens?
They'll resurrect them.
So they should be consistent. And I'm very worried about the Supreme Court, especially the Chief Justice. Look, this notion that she's getting too political is gaining ground. And I think that she can do better by allowing the system to work effectively. There are equally serious cases there. And when it appears to be going against the government, the slow pace at which they handle the cases is worrying for some of us. Because the Supreme Court should be the last bastion of hope. They should be as independent as they can. I'm telling you, my brother, if you want to do a proper survey and check whether the view about this current Supreme Court, well, that's what he's saying. And I think that the Chief Justice should be very worried about the reputation of the Supreme Court. You see, this situation is turned into a political game. Let's face it. Look, I'm a politician. I can try to defend this side or defend that side because based on Speaker Bagwin's ruling, the MPP loses their majority. If you want to be objective, that is the core of the issue. It's not about the Formina MP or not. At least the Formina MP has even left as an independent candidate and now officially joined the MPP.
Which is very clear in the Constitution.
And it's clear in the Constitution. His is even more clearer. He was an independent candidate. He is no more an independent candidate now. He's the candidate of the MPP. So what's the Supreme Court trying to tell us? Look, let me make it clear. As a member of Parliament, the Supreme Court can engage in judicial review, but the Supreme Court cannot direct Parliament as to how we conduct our business. And in that house, we are masters of our own rules. And so if you make a certain determination at the apex court, don't just assume that it will just flow like that. And that is the consequence we are seeing. Their ruling was that if the MPs are not allowed to sit, it will affect government business. I'm telling you, government business has been affected. Government business as it stands is halted in Parliament. And looking at the situation now, I am very, very convinced that the MPP wouldn't have any vote there. Because if you listen to the independent candidates like Cynthia Morrison and co., I'll be very surprised even if they come to the House to vote with them. They will not. And based on our numbers, it is obvious that they won't have their way. So rather than stepping back and negotiating and engaging each other so that we can find an amicable solution, this Supreme Court idea will not resolve the issue today, it will not resolve it tomorrow. I think that what the leadership should do and what the president in particular should be doing is call the speaker, call the leadership quietly behind the scenes, engage them, possibly reach out to the opposition and see if we can have some middle ground to attend to some urgent government business. But if you think because you find favor in the Supreme Court, you would always rush there, I bet you it won't work today, it won't work tomorrow. Because we are members of Parliament and we know how to operate in that house. The Supreme Court does not operate Parliament. Parliament operates and functions on its own. And let them continue to rule the way they are ruling. And let's see who would win and who would lose. Thank you.
Senor, as a citizen and one who has been involved in a number of these causes for the greater good and see how things are playing out in Parliament now, government business being halted effectively, and with what we are seeing, the latest now, even the attempt to recall Parliament may hit a snag if things continue this way.
It's a disgrace. I think that now these are political wings and arms of government just want to engage in the charades like we are doing with Galamsey. We need to get real. How can we change what is true simply because it doesn't favor us today? And this is a house of honorables. It's a dishonorable submission and representation. We must stop this nonsense. Children are watching. People are watching. It should be an honorable house. Why should what is right change because today it's not favoring you? If the MPP had a seat margin of about 30, would this have been a conversation? You know, let's stop these things. I mean, so I was listening to the MP on saying, please, won't jai. This thing is a very straightforward thing. One, you should understand one thing. Don't over-legalize the Constitution, for starters. The Constitution is not a very pure, procedural, what do you call it, this jurisprudence, something. It is a reflection of the will of the people at any point in time. Go and read 24 verses Attorney General and look at read the ruling of Justice Ian Sowa. If I let me go and look for that thing, cry and give it to you. I mean, we should stop these things. We have to stop. This is what Justice Sowa said. He said that a written constitution such as ours is not an ordinary act of parliament. It embodies the will of a people. It mirrors their history. Account therefore needs to be taken of it as a landmark in a people's search for progress. And more importantly, it contains within it their aspirations and their hope for a better and fuller life. That constitution was not just crafted out of some legalistic engagement. It came out of an engagement with the people. This is one of the most functional constitutions we've had because it was done as what it was as a consultative assembly. Hairdressers were part of those who did this thing. You didn't need a legal certificate to come here. Everybody should find ownership in the constitution and speak about the representation therein. Let's go to this matter that is at the heart of it. It's a very simple matter. A member of parliament shall vacate the seat in parliament. These are the conditions. Let me just jump straight to this age matter. If he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party, they don't even give you time. The moment you join a political party, you are out. I'll come and tell you what I see as the aspirations of the people in this part of the conversation. G tells you if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party or seeks to remain in parliament as an independent. Look, this is the matter here is very simple. Nobody needs to go and bring any spirit from Nogokpo or anywhere or from my village to come and tell you this thing. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. 2 become 2.1 because today you are calling yourself honorable, you are calling yourself dishonorable. It's your problem. My guy, the essence of this is to make sure you do not fraudulently relate with the people who give you a mandate to sit there. The Constitution realizes that the political ticket on which you stand is a major consideration for us as electors to empower you to represent us. When we go and vote, we don't go and vote as members of a party. We go and vote as citizens. And we vote you to go there and represent us. And there are a number of things that we put in context to make that decision. It includes your kind of political coloration, because we also connect it to what kind of policies and kind of orientation that will guide you. So your pre-electoral political status cannot be varied. The moment you vary it, because it's a central consideration for us as electors, you have to come back to us the electors to see if we'll give your new coloration and our new estimation of your direction the mandate to continue to represent us or not. That's why Wayoseni had this problem. You shift, you come out. We vote you back, it's okay. If we don't vote you back, you pack yourself. That is how we just want to avoid political fraud. So you don't come to us as electorate and change. We all know that this is the reason why this thing is there. That's why it actually goes back to actually deal with the independent matter. The moment you join a party, I have a lot of respect, and I really like what's his name, the first deputy speaker, the former MP. He supported our advocacy during the DDP. I like him and I love him any day. But this one, the Yuba, you know, say Yuba. So let's stop this thing and just make sure we create a very stable state. The country is already fragile. Let's not create unnecessary brouhaha. To this extent, what is it that is really being lost apart from egos in this matter? What is it that the majority NDC can be able to do without the assent of a president? I don't know what it is that they think they are losing between now and December 7th or January 7th. Please, let's get real. Negotiate and let's get practical. Be consistent with our representation. These facts are clear. It won't change today. It won't change tomorrow. Nobody can interpret this matter differently. You are a criminal to try and interpret this. You are being dishonorable to the people of Ghana. If you try
interpreting Article 97,
any chief justice, chief, whatever it is, put everybody together. You cannot change. Please, I beg you. You see me. I don't want this kind. I beg you, my brother. My brother, let me finish. We sometimes make the thing go into the sky. It is not in the sky. The thing is on ground. Let's be honest.
You are speaking. I want you to make your point in clarity. Mr. Azefua, I'm going to come to you. Hold on, because I would ask you a question. Now, you are saying that based on your understanding,
what understanding? Anybody can read English. This was written by businessmen like myself, like hairdressers, carpenters were all part of those who wrote this thing. You didn't need to go and get LLB to come and be part of this constitution. Okay. We are all part of it. So we are all shareholders in this constitution. We understand it.
Fair point.
Some things are black and white. Let's just deal with it. We are building a certain democracy. It's a project. Let's not get too comfortable.
People are losing confidence in democracy. And check the Afrobarometer for a while now. So your conduct as MPs, your conduct as political parties should continue to engender confidence and help reverse this derailing confidence in democracy. So when we start by changing what is right and wrong, only because it favors us today or doesn't favor us tomorrow, what confidence do we have in our political structures? And you know, for things that are very clear, open like this, it's the last thing you want to argue and fight. And okay, you can have your funny debates in Parliament, but look at the next step. What happens? What this single step and move by the MPP and the judiciary has done is to actually further fracture the pillars of our democracy. And that brings me to the issue about the Supreme Court. Look at how the Supreme Court handled this. Justice must not just be done, it must be seen to be done. Everybody understands that the executive and the legislature will always have a very fierce political engagement. The bedrock of our democracy, besides the people, the institution of state that's supposed to give us that base and consistency is the judiciary. The moment people lose hope in the judiciary, you should know that your democracy is set for crashing, is set for going out. And we can't afford that. How many of us sit here and don't hear people say we need a benevolent dictator? Let's be honest. Don't you hear these comments every time? Why should we want one? We need to sustain our democracy because people are losing confidence in the democracy. So the moment the judiciary is seen to be joining that party, then we have a crisis. So when I heard the Chief Justice go and preach somewhere, please, you should stop doing this thing. The last time we had people going around and preaching and wearing white, it wasn't good for this country.
So what's your point?
Please, I beg you. She is not in any eye of any storm. If any title, she is the storm and Ghana is in her eye. She must focus on trying to make sure that her policy decisions sustain confidence in our existing structures and systems. It can't be affordable for all of us to have people generally start thinking that our judiciary has been captured by the executive. It is not right. We won't have a democracy going forward. We will legitimize anybody's will to interfere with our democracy. So please, parliamentarians, please, let's all stop this thing. We all know what it is. We should stop this concert we are all doing. Everybody is watching. There's a bigger goal, which is Ghana. There's a bigger goal, the consistency of our democracy. Let's focus on achieving that. And the judges there, I beg you, you go and hide. The democracy, when it happens, it will face you fair and square.
I see, but you see, it is within the democratic right of anybody to want to seek an interpretation of it. And so that's why I want you to just,
you can go and seek. I'm saying that certain things.
You made a point.
You can't go and come and tell us the name of Ghana and the constitution is no more Ghana.
This being a criminal. You don't want to say that.
Well, okay, let me retract that.
Yes.
First, so let me retract that. But no. In my opinion, that kind of effort to try and misrepresent and misinterpret things that are so obvious is very, very, very unpatriotic. And I think that it is policy fraudulent. That's my opinion. You know, that's my opinion. It's just not right.
Alfred, who decides that standard?
We can't.
Wait, hold on.
It's not blue.
Who decides that standard?
Black is black and white is white. I don't need to decide it. You need to decide it. Me, I say we should stop all this thing. We are wasting our time having this conversation. We all know what is right. You can't say yesterday when it favored you, it was white. Today that is not favoring you, it is black. What kind of country are we building?
You cannot sit on your TV and say,
oh, my friend, I'll sit on TV and tell you what you are saying is dishonest.
Hold on.
It is dishonest. Stop it.
What exactly?
It's not opinion matter. You see that it's black and white. You are saying opinion.
Hold on.
I mean, it's my opinion.
Hold on.
People should stop listening.
And I sought to have you specifically withdraw that statement.
I've withdrawn the criminal bit. I've withdrawn the criminal bit.
What's your point exactly? What's your point exactly?
You don't sit there and insult everybody. Because
how have I insulted?
Hold on.
Who have I insulted?
Hold on.
Will you put to it? You know that
when he favors you, it is black. When he doesn't favor you, it's white.
You wanted to make a point of intervention. I'm giving you that. What's your issue?
That nobody should have an opinion. I have an opinion.
That's his opinion.
I'm saying that as honorable people, be honest about things like this. They are sensitive to our democracy.
Gentlemen,
let's not just be.
say that
Talking for
somebody
talking
is
sake.
Let me listen to him.
opinion, and for that matter, that person is a criminal. You can't say that.
Oh,
we are
please.
in a democratic dispensation.
For starters, I've withdrawn the
Everybody
criminal
can have
bits.
his opinion. Everybody can have his interpretation to the Constitution. If I have mine and you disagree, respectfully disagree. But to go ahead and insult people because I'm having an opinion, you don't do that. The same to 4 verses Attorney General that you read says that the Constitution is a living organism. It is capable of growth. So the fact that there has been a ruling in 2020
growth in a
doesn't mean
distorted
that
manner.
So it can grow from white to black.
You cannot depart from it. If you depart from it, depart today. The Supreme Court itself can have a review of its own decision.
It must be grounded. It must be grounded.
Gentlemen, hold on.
Does it mean you are a criminal?
No, no, not at all. For such don't bash the criminal bit. I've already indicated I've withdrawn the criminal bit. But let's be honourable about it.
Hold on. So
I have told you I've withdrawn the criminal bit, so I've withdrawn that.
Hold on.
An opinion.
And I didn't say you were a criminal too.
Because somebody has an opinion.
No, but I'm saying that be honest about your opinion. When the thing is black and white, let's just face it and go.
So you've made your point. Now, Mr. Asifwa, so I think that
you interpret what was said there.
You have made your point. You made that intervention. What I sought to find out from you.
When Joe Wise left the Independent and joined the New Patriotic Party, was there a ruling by any speaker at the time? Please, let's be consistent. Was there a ruling by a speaker at the time in 2012 to declare the vacancy of that seat?
Yes.
That's not the first time this happened.
I was in Parliament.
Please don't do that.
Okay.
Let's not do that.
So what is he saying?
So what exactly is your point in this?
My point is that you allowed him to throw rubbish to the Ghanaian people. Why?
Oh no! I don't have a problem with you thinking that what I said was rubbish. But if you listen to yourself, I think you get your own submission, possibly like that.
So
take your time and listen. We can put that to a vote and we'll see who's really sounding like rubbish.
Hold on. You've
read the thing. You've gone to law school. You even don't need to go to law school to know. This is 1 plus 1 is equal to 2.
You have made your point. Now, Mr. Asifwa, you sought to make an intervention specifically about
over nothing in this country.
Said. Now, after I got him to withdraw that specific statement, you continuously hammered on it.
Because it's his only argument.
I was just hoping that you were going to make a substantive point of disagreement.
He should.
Now, so what is the issue of disagreement with him?
Yes.
Quoted.
Yes.
That same 24 verses Attorney General says that the Constitution is a living organism.
Yes.
Okay.
It is capable of growth. So a decision could have been made in 2020. That decision can be reviewed.
No, it's not a decision. This is the problem.
That is my. If today I have an opinion and I have a different understanding about the law,
what is
you insult me because I have a different understanding of the law?
Kuku is not the Constitution. The Constitution is here.
I'm listening to you.
Michael Quay gave an interpretation of the law.
Forget about him.
And you are saying that Michael Quay's interpretation at the time cannot be contested.
I haven't said that.
Well-meaning Ghanaian.
I haven't said that.
So if you are seeking to, okay, hold on. Your microphone is off actually.
The Speaker of Parliament at the time to have even assumed jurisdiction to have dealt with the matter. Number one. Number two, it is also wrong today for the Speaker of Parliament, that is Bagwin, to assume responsibility to rule on this matter because per Article 99, it does not lie within his ambit to do so.
Okay, what the speaker did, what the speaker did. Hold on, Mr. Asifwa, what the speaker did last week, you stated on this program that based on your own honest understanding, and I'm quoting you, that you said honestly you don't think the speaker ruled on this particular issue.
No, I said honestly, the speaker did not interpret the Constitution. I did not say he did not rule.
Good. So if the speaker did not interpret the Constitution but only communicated, as he stated when he was putting out that decision, he said he was only seeking to apply the Constitution.
Right.
Where then lies this point that you have just made?
I am saying that the speaker, per Article 2 and 130, the combined effect of these two provisions.
My brother.
Hello?
When he's back.
No.
Lies only with the Supreme Court. So what he sought, by his own understanding, especially within the Supreme Court. So, in my estimation, the Supreme Court, the Speaker of Parliament, have interpreted the Constitution the way he did. Let us leave that for the High Court to declare, and if there's an issue of an interpretation, the High Court will now refer it to the Supreme Court. That was the point I made. If you have any different opinion to what I'm saying, please respectfully say so. Don't go ahead to insult people. It's about insult. Respectfully, maybe we can do better.
Okay, that's why I don't think that. Hold on, gentlemen, hold on. I don't think that. Wait, listen, please. I don't think that if you keep on talking about somebody specifically insulting you, nobody has done that on this program. And there was a point of disagreement. There are divergent views and opinions on this matter. Just as you have also espoused your different view and opinion, that doesn't amount to an insult. If you specifically indicate that somebody insulted you, I don't think that it is good for the program in itself. So respectfully,
if somebody says that you are putting your own interpretation to the Constitution, and that is dishonest, and that amounts to criminality.
No,
what
but
does that mean?
You had me have him withdraw that. So why are you continuously making reference
so
to that?
it means that he did so. No, I didn't hear that. He did so. And that is very honorable on his part.
So, thank you. I think you've made an intervention, but stay with us. Stay with us. Yes. Okay. So, lawyer.
So this is a quick one to correct some impression that have been created. The impression that the only group of people who can interpret the Constitution is the Supreme Court. That is not correct. You see, in a very important case, Nick would be Tetechu versus the Attorney General. This issue came, and Justice Duche was emphatic that it is only the other courts that can interpret the Constitution. But any other person working with the Constitution, including the Speaker, committees, they can interpret the Constitution. But when it comes to a court, and this is what he said, let me just read. He said, "It is therefore to be noted that only courts properly so called and duly established under the Constitution 1992 or an Act of Parliament can qualify to make referral to the Supreme Court, since the referral in this case was made by a duly recognized court, that is the High Court." So in the case, somebody objected that there was a committee which sought to interpret the Constitution, and therefore the committee didn't have the power to interpret the Constitution. And Duche was saying that, no, that referral clause, which is found in Article 30, is in reference to courts properly so called, courts that have been established as having jurisdiction. So it is not the case that anytime some people are working with the Constitution and there's a question, they have to refer to the Supreme Court before they continue. It is only courts that are that. And secondly, he referred to Article 99, which says that if the question arises as to whether there's a vacancy in Parliament, that question should be, sent to the High Court. It doesn't mean that anytime there's vacancy, you have to go to the High Court for the High Court to declare the vacancy. It says when the question arises. If you read the provision, it didn't say that when you want to declare, you go to the High Court. Where the Constitution wants you to go to the High Court for a declaration, it tells you specifically. So, for example, Article 33, it tells you that if you want to enforce human rights, go to the Supreme Court. But in this particular 99, it says when there is a question, and when there's a question means that when there is a dispute out of people's opinion, and that, so for example, the Speaker says that it's vacant, and you believe that it's not vacant, the place to go is the High Court. It doesn't mean that whenever you want to declare, the Speaker cannot declare, and that you have to wait and go to the High Court for the High Court to make that declaration. So I believe that some of these things must be correct, and there are decided cases in support of these provisions. So I still get surprised that we repeatedly say these things, that the Speaker should have referred the matter to the Supreme Court, the Speaker should have referred the matter to the High Court, when there are clear decided cases on these matters saying that it is not anybody who can refer. It's only courts. If the matter is in a court, then the court can refer to the Supreme Court for interpretation. But it doesn't mean that if I am working as a public official in an organization and a constitutional provision, and I'm trying to put my understanding, then you say, no, I have to stay what I'm doing. Can the court function if all of us would have to refer every question that we think is in the Constitution to the Supreme Court? Can it function? So I think we should stop this particular argument, because all week I've heard it from a lot of people, senior lawyers, when there's a decided case on the matter. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Rashid Rahman, you would have to leave out in a bit, so I want to have you specifically come in with how the matters have proceeded now. There was a talk about negotiation as well. Do you see that happening?
Yeah, Alfred, I think that I have said this right from the beginning on your platform, even before Tuesday. I said that if I were to advise our leaders, the President, the Chief Justice, and the Speaker would have to sit together with the leaders of Parliament before Tuesday. And we saw what happened. Before I leave, Alfred, I want to say a few things. Just building on what Senor was saying about the issue of trust. You know, we have been working, you know, to strengthen our parliamentary democracy. And I've been at this for many, many years. Today, democracy is facing severe headwinds. And, you know, at the heart of it is the conduct of our parliamentarians. And now I'm talking to both sides of the House. You look at study after study, data after data, the Afrobarometer, Pew Research, International Idea. You know, everybody says we don't trust the people who lead us. And the Right Honourable Speaker made this comment when he delivered the alumni lectures just recently. You know, and so if we are in this kind of situation, and particularly in our case, in our sub-region, I think we are the only last hope. You look at our northern neighbors, you know, they are on fire. And just yesterday we heard how, whether true or not, I mean, the terrorists are infiltrating, and they got to where they got to because of the kind of significant lack of trust in the system within which they operate. So I would say this, Alfred, just like what Honorable Jinapo said, legal issues will not resolve, legal approaches will not resolve what we are dealing with. It's a political problem. And in advanced democracies, we see what happens in the US. Biden will call the leaders of Congress and say, let's make a deal. Let's sit down and talk until we find a solution. When the country is almost on a brink, I mean, most of the time is economically. During Obama's time, the same thing. So I think our leaders have to make a deal. We understand government business will suffer. But like Honorable Jinapo said, at the end of the day, it's only talk that's going to take us out of this. Parliament, in the scheme of things, I mean, our democracy stands on three legs. The wobbly one, the wobbly leg is Parliament. The weakest one is Parliament. And by the actions of our MPs and all the people that work with them and so on from outside, they are forgetting that they are weakening the institution the more. Because if one has the right to go to the court, another person has the right to go to the court. And now that's what we are seeing. We are not careful, Parliament will be immobilized. And that's not what we want.
Parliament will be immobilized.
Immobilized. Parliament will not be able to do anything at all. Because, I mean, you start and somebody will run to the court and say, stop it. Another person starts, and like I've been saying to you and to your colleagues, minorities change. So tomorrow we might wake up and it's a different minority. And let's keep this in mind. There's a senator in the US, in his last statement before he exited Congress, he titled his speech, Minorities Change. And he says that when you are in majority, make sure that what you are pushing down, you can live with it when you find yourself in the minority. And I think that this goes to the two parties. We are here because, you know, our parties have been thrown into a zone of discomfort. They are always used to NDC having majority and no issue. MPP having majority, no issue. And now Ghanaians have said, go and sit down and compromise and discuss and dialogue. But I think it has been very difficult.
What's your verdict on this 8th Parliament, really?
My verdict? I want more of the 8th Parliament.
Want more of this kind of Parliament?
Yes.
There are some who say that...
No, Alfred, chaotic. Hold on. I want more of the 8th Parliament.
Even
because
the first Deputy Speaker says it's disappointing.
No, it's not about the quality. It's not about the number of... Yes, it's not about the number of laws or the number of bills that are passed. I think we are more concerned about the quality of the bills, and then we are also more concerned about the quality of oversight. Look, Alfred, I've been following this parliament. I've seen, I mean, Right Honorable Speaker when he was minority leader, when he was majority leader. I've seen my friend Honorable Chairman, majority leader, minority leader. I've worked with all of them over the years. I've never known that our parliament has the power of the purse until this 8th parliament, where negotiations have to take place. For instance, for some financial bills, you know, not to pass the way they were.
Okay.
So we want more of the 8th parliament. The parties don't want it. I'm sure Honorable Jinapo will say, I mean, if they come to power, they want, I mean, majority so that they can do. But citizens don't want that. It's not good for oversight. I can tell you that. It's not good for oversight.
Really?
Yes.
But have they, with this parliament, done enough in terms of oversight to want to have this kind of parliament again?
Yes, not enough. Not enough. Not enough. But some oversight has taken place. It's improved. It's improved. Alfred, can you imagine if it was NDC that was in power and it had all the numbers? We wouldn't have any discussion about e-levy. We wouldn't have any discussion about many other things that happen in this 8th parliament. So I'm speaking from the position of a citizen. I'm speaking from the position of somebody who has worked with both sides, and we are saying we want a very strong parliament so that that wobbly leg, I mean, parliament can stand on as equal strong leg as the two arms of government. Otherwise, you know, day in, day out, actions and inactions are leading to a situation where our parliament will be weakened, and we don't want that. And I think that... and
that is with the continuous references,
yes,
and also bringing in the courts.
Like I said at the beginning of my comment, the reason why we have 275 members sitting in that house is for them to go and, I mean, politically negotiate. You know, where they cannot reach an agreement, they go out and try to find mechanisms to agree, or mechanisms to disagree, but everybody around the table agreeing that we have agreed to disagree. And then the business of our country can continue. But if we keep running to the court, tomorrow you might try to do something, prevent that, and somebody will say, just like what we are seeing now, the precedent that was set, we should be careful the types of precedents that we are setting. I think that would do well for our democracy.
You know, because one moment we sat at the majority side, if you remember.
Yes.
Because we consider ourselves as the majority.
So will you go to the Supreme Court and tell the Supreme Court to direct us not to sit on the majority side? Then all of us will go to jail.
Oh, how?
I'm telling you, on the majority side.
So that's where the political negotiation comes in, Alfred.
Alfred, can I?
And as to what it will take for that political negotiation to take place, Dr. Shudwan, and quick one before you go, because he's leaving us.
The leader must start it.
What will that take, or what will it take, or what must give for that political negotiation to take place as you are recommending?
Look, Alfred, in politics, I mean, all students of politics will tell you, I mean, when you are in politics, especially when you are in a divided parliament like ours, you will never get everything 100%. It takes some giving and some taking. So rather than, I mean, when I hear Honorable Jinapo, I mean, it confirms, I mean, what I am thinking, that both sides are digging in and are digging in, I mean, very, very deep. We have to try and find a way of trying to bring them to the middle. Yeah. So, and I know that in a very polarized environment, for instance, today, if the president calls the leaders of the NDC in the parliament and says, come and let's negotiate, I mean, the repercussions, particularly from their foot soldiers, from the party and so on, will be huge. If there's going to be negotiation, it has to be a very wide kind of stakeholder negotiation, so that at least Honorable Jinapo and his group don't go to meet the president and then it sends a different signal altogether. We have to find a way to make it the business of our country, to make it the interest of our country is at heart. How do we get both sides to sit down and say, okay, we have these critical things that we need to do before the end of this parliament. How do we get it done? And then that way, hopefully, if cool heads prevail, we can get out of this. But Alfred, let me make one last point.
Okay.
And this is to both honorable members who are here. When people keep saying we have very important business to do before this parliament ends, this parliament had 4 years. This parliament had 4 years. And, you know, it speaks to the practice that we have seen over the years, both NDC and MPP. During the last kind of days of meetings, yes, before Parliament goes on recess, sometimes they sit up to midnight, and this has been the practice. So you instead of front loading most of this business so that they can be done, we wait at the last minute. When Honorable Jinapo is tired around midnight, I mean, what thinking can he think in terms of scrutinizing anything?
And then they approve all sorts of things.
Exactly, and then it gets our country into trouble because judgment debts and so on, because proper scrutiny is not done. So I think the parties have to learn some lessons from this. You know, if there's business, let's give our members of parliament enough time. Let's bring it forward, and this current crisis is teaching us a very important lesson. If you put these things, hold them to the last minute, and you face this kind of situation, then our country can come to a stop. And I think that that will be the last point on which I will land, Alfred.
Well, and talk about the, and Dr. Zato, I'll come to you, but talk about the pending bills before Parliament. We'll put that on the screen right now. The pending bills before Parliament. In fact, two of President Akufo-Addo's, in fact, the business, pending government business, and the bills as well. Two of President Akufo-Addo's Supreme Court nominees have still not been approved by Parliament. Also, tax waivers in excess of $350 million for 1D1F companies have also not been approved. And then also, wait, I am only.
And don't use 1D1F because it's not really 1D1F. I'm just telling you. That is branding that we do it to just deceive the people of Ghana. We should stop. It's not 1D1F.
It's one district, one.
I'm telling you, I know everything on the list. Some of them are in that. It's not 1D1F.
The list of companies.
Please, let's stop this. You put in 1D1F. Yes, stop this kind of thing.
It's not 1D1F.
My brother, people are suffering. Oh. People are suffering. So we can't continue to do this. I'll tell you something. The reason why this matter is a big matter. Do you remember the bus branding? Do you know why bus branding was big? If you go and steal in, you do some big corruption in sea defense, nobody will catch you because they can't even understand what it looks like. But when you do it with bus branding, that even taxi drivers do their branding, everybody can evaluate what is happening. That is why this matter is black and white. Don't fool the people of Ghana.
Well, aside from this 1D1, well, you say the companies, you know them. You're a businessman, you know them.
Some are there, but don't brand the whole thing as if it's all 1D1F. That's my problem.
Okay, there are some
1D1F business, tax waiver, $350 million, and we haven't seen a transformation in this economy.
Well, there are some pending bills as well that have still not been concluded by Parliament. One, the merger of Electricity Company of Ghana and the Northern Electricity Development Company, NEDCO Bill 2024, the Business Regulatory Reform Commission Bill 2024, also the Office of the Administrator of Stool Lands, and then the Nuclear Power Ghana Authority Bill. In fact, the EPA also have an interest in there. The merger of VRA and Bui Power Authority Bill, which has been fiercely resisted by the senior staff of VRA over the period, and the Competition Bill 2024 as well, all of that, all these bills pending before Parliament. Dr. Jato, you wanted to make a quick intervention talking about the need for negotiated settlement to resolve the standoff in Parliament. Politically, can that be achieved?
Thank you very much. Yes, it's true that sometimes it's easier to take a political problem and quickly make it into a legal one. Because sometimes what happens is that the legal one becomes so final that it ends the negotiations. But I agree that yes, there are some issues, and especially when it comes to this particular issue, we need a very serious political negotiation, political trade-off, so that we can easily address it. But that is not going to happen. And you asked the question, when do you think that can happen? I think possibly that can happen on the 8th of December, on the 9th of December, on the 10th of December. Because right now, both political parties are also playing to the gallery. Both political parties are also playing to the electorate. We cannot and we should not marginalize or try to what? Forget or ignore the imperative of the coming elections. We should not. And that is what you will see, because both political parties want to show that, one, they will not give in, they will not give up, and that they can continue to fight for the people. And that is why you see that on the one hand, both political parties are trying to portray this as what? Fighting for the so-called ordinary persons. And that is why you see that the leaders of the two political parties, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency Vice President Baomi, have both waded into this debate. And that's good. So for me, that is why it will not happen now. That is why that negotiation will not happen. That is why that solution will not happen now, because none of them will want to be seen to be given up. The NDC is making that point, that look, our reset, whatever starts now.
So how will this end? So this is never going to end?
That's what I'm telling you when it's likely going to end. That after the elections, when the results are declared, and that is my opinion, when none of the politicians are now pandering to the electorate, when none of the political parties now think that we cannot use, let's say, a win or a loss in the House to our political or to our electoral advantage, when you remove that, then cooler heads can stay, then we can give. So that is what I believe. But of course, it's possible that
that will be at the expense of all of these pending business.
No, I think that even after elections, you can still do things. I'm not saying they will do it, but I'm thinking that it's possible to do it after December.
There's none of these things as agents.
So my point is that I'm sure it can still be done. You can still pass bills after December 7th. So for me, that's not bad. Of course, they can prove me wrong. It's possible that. What do we know? It's possible that even some discussions and negotiations at the background. It's possible that there are people that are sitting down and talking and trying to have a political solutions to this. That is possible. But from where I sit and considering the imperative of the campaign and of the elections, I don't think any one of them will want to be seen to what? Giving up and allowing it. But then there's something that happened. Imagine in the world where when Professor Michael Quay ruled, somebody had gone to the Supreme Court, challenged what he said, and then there was finality on this. Will we have been where we are today? Will we have been where we are today? The fact I just imagine that when he made that rule,
the fact that Supreme Court has ruled on the matter.
You're asking a question for an answer?
Yes.
So that doesn't disrupt it.
The fact that Supreme Court has ruled on the matter doesn't mean that the matter cannot be, argued again. So that is why we say
Roe versus Wade.
The Supreme Court itself can review. So taking it to Supreme Court doesn't bring finality in itself.
Okay. So I asked that question because I want to find out ourselves.
There gives relative.
Is there a way? Pardon?
I said the Supreme Court gives relative finality.
Yes. So is it possible for us to get a finality on this? Because from what they say, we cannot get a political finality on this. The politics, we cannot get Parliament to finalize this thing, and we can also get the Supreme Court. If you're saying that if we cannot also get the Supreme Court to finalize, then the question becomes again. It then becomes imperative for us to try to look for a middle ground. It then becomes imperative for us to look for a political solution, because these things are going to happen. One, the executive, it is the first time an executive president is learning to work with and evenly split Parliament. And whatever that is happening now will set precedents for what is going to happen. Because the moment we've now had this split Parliament, it means that we will, and we're likely going to have more down the line.
It's my prayer.
So if the president is forced, he has to learn how to live with this current Parliament on the job. In this, and at least under this republic. So it means, again, whatever lessons we are learning, whatever we are doing, we can, and coming to the point of time, we can then to the city, if we want to put the country forward, we can then basically, these decisions will have consequences going forward. And that if we continue to have a split Parliament, we will now have to find political solutions. The question is, where are we going to get these solutions from? How are we going to navigate this waters going forward? In order for us to be able to make these breakthroughs, because it looks to me like these things, this is not just a one-time aberration that we just have this divided Parliament and it's just going to go. So it's down the line we are going to have more. We need to begin to, as a country, find solutions. We need to begin to find mechanisms that can solve it. You asked the gentleman who left one question whether this Parliament has justified. I said yes. This Parliament has justified it. For the first time, as I said, executives have to find new creative solutions and ways of dealing with the divided house. We've also said supervision of the house, or the oversight supervision of the house, has also was improved and increased. And we've also said, look, the private member bills that you've seen the house pass, they've come as very important. For us, there are other bills that we can talk about later on. And the other important things that we may talk about later on, including the fight for Galamsey. And that's what I'm saying, that one of the areas where this house could have done, should have done more, and didn't do more. So, yes, as a house, as a divided house, it has made some achievement that it can be proud of. And as a house, and I also pray that whatever the house is doing now, that they realize that going forward, going on the line, these things can be, they can be kind mines, potential mines waiting to explode, or they can become cases that people can now look at. I look at yesterday, this didn't happen, this is how we solve it, and that going forward, this is how we solve it. I pray that it sets good precedents that we can always use that as a template to solve these difficult political positions going forward. But this kind of divided parliament, I think that will probably come to stay.
Mr. Janabo, so that negotiated settlement or the political solution to this, well, for Dr. Ziato, that may be difficult because of the current entrenched positions taking on this matter. But what must give? Will that happen?
Yeah, but that is where you get to know true leadership. Leadership comes out of very difficult situations. We have stated that some of the issues, whether with negotiation or without, we will not support it. For instance, these tax waivers.
The 350
I found it very fraudulent. I mean,
for 1D, 1F.
Yes, and at each committee meeting.
Please don't say that thing. Put the list out and let's discuss it.
At each committee meeting.
And let's discuss
it. At each committee meeting, like Senor is saying, anytime we pick even one of them and we raise the issues, the chairman himself is compelled to stand it down.
You're a member of the finance committee.
Yes, so I'm sure that it will go through. And if you do a critical analysis of all the requests, about 90% of them will not pass. So I don't see the urgency of it. But my point is that if the president wants a solution, he knows what to do. And that is leadership. I'm not the president. I did not go to get to stand on the ticket that I should be voted as president. And it's not easy to be the president of Ghana. It comes with a certain level of tact, a certain level of maturity, and I expect that the president would show that. But this attempt to push it down our throats, this attempt to rough shoulders with us, this attempt to use the judiciary to gag us and to push us aside, I can assure you, it will not happen. Not under our watch. It won't happen in Parliament. And we know what we are doing in Parliament. We have our strategies. We won't put it here. But if anybody thinks that they can use some rough tactics to eliminate us, I can assure you we'll remain resolute, we'll remain very firm and committed, and we'll do what is right and proper to serve this country. I would advise the Supreme Court particularly to tread cautiously. I thought that the Supreme Court at least would have listened to the side of the Speaker of Parliament before even making that pronouncement. Be that as it may, this is where we find ourselves. In fact, we have just about 40 days to the elections. Let's hold everything and go for the election. 40 days. Because from here, I'm going to the constituency. We're going to campaign. I'm very determined to retain my seat and probably add some seats to the NDC. So,
how are you going to add seats to your NDC? Are you going to contest on two different seats?
No, I'm supporting some other seats. I have some 3 more seats to take from the Savannah region to add to the 4, so that we get 7. So we have a duty to not just win my seat, but help the NDC to win some other seats. And that is exactly what we're doing. So I think we should hold everything. Like it's been said, after Parliament, we have about 1 month, because we'll come for the whole of December. At that time, the chiefs would have fallen and would have known where we are. So we can pick the key. We can pick the key. Oh, we do that. Even on the eve of Parliament. I recall a day before Parliament it was dissolved. We got some bills attended to. So it's not a problem at all. There's no agency about the 1D, 1F. There's no agency about those bills they are talking about. In any case, they don't even have the numbers. So the majority side before can no longer compel our majority side now to do what they want.
There's
It's
two
not going
of
to happen.
President Akufo-Addo's nominees for the Supreme Court.
They've been pending for a very long time. Even when they were majority, they couldn't pass them. How are they going to pass them when they are now minority? So I think we should hold it. Let's go, come, and then the chips would have fallen, would have known where we are. And normally, what you'll be doing at this time is to do things to help the next government. That's how democracy works. At your twilight, and when you are about handing over, whatever policy decision you are taking, you must have the next government in mind. And so whatever would have been doing post-December would be to be preparing the ground for the next government. Don't forget that we also have to pass the initial phase of the budget, not the full budget, the 3 months
the first quarter
holding period. So those are the issues that we'll be dealing with. But now, let's remain calm. But surprisingly, you know, some voices have been very, very quiet in this matter.
Which voices
Either
were you
two
hoping
you
to
would
hear?
have heard.
The Ghana Bar.
The Ghana Bar,
Yes, called
the
the Bar.
Peace Council, and all those Council of State.
The Peace Council says they have met the leadership of both sides.
In respect of what?
In respect of this matter.
Oh, and what was their point? I'm just saying that their loud silence is very, very deafening. Let me put it that way. But finally, my point is simple. Look, let it be where we are. There's no need for the Afenyo-Markin-led side to attempt to recall us. Let's go and campaign. Let's finish the election. When we come back, if there's any other issue, we'll take it up from there.
And if there's going to be any negotiated, as it were, understanding or position to deal with this matter, you would expect that the president would step in or should be thinking about stepping in to bring some level of negotiation to this matter.
Absolutely. He's the first gentleman of the land.
I see.
And how he lands the boat rests with him, not just with Parliament, but even with the elections. So he should navigate
With Galamsey.
and everything. He should navigate it and dock the ship of state and anchor it in a very, very tactical manner, especially at this critical moment. He should be very cautious with his utterance, with his posture, with how he goes about things, because we would not allow anybody to run into arrest. It's not going to happen. As for that one, let me assure whoever is watching this program that the NDC would not allow anybody to take us for a ride, be it in Parliament, during the election, collation of results, announcing the results. We would ensure that the right thing is done, and we are determined to ensure that the right thing is done. And nothing, absolutely nothing, and I mean what I'm talking about, nothing would push us aside. So it rests with him. He is a president who is exiting. He's not contesting. And in any advanced democracy, when a president is exiting, he exits with a very, very good face. He remains more impartial, even though he has a political party. And most of his policy decisions ought to be seen to help the next administration to address the key challenges that we are faced with. And on your topic, we'll be dealing with the economy. And I'll point to you the real issues that should confront us as a nation, and the next government, the challenges the next government will be faced with as far as the economy is concerned. For me, those are the areas we should be looking at so that we can make a headway as a country.
I see. And in concluding on this matter, Senor, the point earlier you made, and the reason why you think that this particular 97(1) G and H is clear and in plain language. The NPP has also reserved and executed their right of going to the Supreme Court to seek interpretation, so that, in their view, they would seek to correct the wrong now of Professor Michael Quay.
The first thing, Professor Michael Quay is not in this question at all. That's the first thing.
Now the position is that
they're referring to Michael Quay is the political expediency of the people doing politics. Forget about him. I beg you in the name of God, all of us, take the Constitution. When you go online, look for Ghana Constitution, you will find it. Yeah, that's the camera. Everybody, Ghanaian, You are all responsible to make sure you understand your own constitution. It is here. Let me go there. Please, every citizen take the constitution. It is not for lawyers alone. It was written by hairdressers. It was written by carpenters. It was written by businessmen, mokola people, just like you and me. Obia Kanwubi, go and read it. Read Article 97. And I quote. I don't know if that's how they say it in court. Yes. I don't even, I can read.
And I quote. Quote.
A member of parliament shall vacate his seat in parliament. And the conditions are here. I jump to G. If he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to parliament to join another party or seek to remain in parliament as an independent member, have the people left their party to another party? If yes, you know, even this constitution doesn't say anybody will have to vacate you. You yourself should just honorable advise yourself and leave. Number 2, H. So 97, 1H. If he was elected a member of parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party, not even if they decide to contest too, if you join a political party. So question, the second deputy minister, speaker, me, I've said I like that man. He supported us when we were fighting the DP. He's a good man. If I'm in his constituency, me, I'll vote for him. You understand? But this one there is lying.
Okay.
So the question, was he not an independent before he came to this parliament? Didn't contest as an independent. You contested. Today, have you joined another party? In fact, he should have vacated the time he went for primaries. Because you cannot be an independent, you cannot not be a member of parliament, a member of a party and contest the primaries of that party. Am I right? You can't say you are not a member of MPP, but you can contest MPP primaries. So from the day he decided to take a new party card at the MPP, he should have vacated. This is not even asking for any speaker. He says you shall vacate. Because it's an honorable house, so do the honorable thing. I don't have a problem with the politics, but let's just be honest about things. Where Ghana is right now, we can't be lying and be fighting over petty things. There are serious issues we have to deal with. Let's start by being honest with ourselves. What at all is it that's going to be lost between now and January 7th? I can't figure it out. Is it egos? The egos of everybody in parliament is not bigger than the supreme interest of the state, the sustainability of our democracy, which for me is my biggest problem. When we are doing this Tom and Jerry thing, it should be over other things, but not for what even anybody. My grandma, if I go and read it to her, she will just tell you that.
Okay, well, Dr. Justice Trems, this is what Dr. Tony Edo said, and I'm going to read it. And good morning to Dr. Tony Edo. He says, the Speaker of Parliament applied a provision that automatically kicks in. The Speaker of Parliament did not make a ruling or an order. Article 97, Clause 1, and the subclauses operate automatically. They are akin to what in criminal law we may say is strict liability. For instance, the law says you must have a driving license before you move a vehicle. If you don't have a driving license, you are guilty. With strict liability offenses, the courts and the prosecution don't have to prove mens rea. Now, what case did the Honorable Afenyo King take to the Supreme Court? And what is the subject of interpretation in this context, as Dr. Toniedo is talking about?
Yes, so the Constitution spells out what should happen if certain things happen. Like Senor read, it says that you shall vacate the seat when certain things happen. What are those things? When you come to the house on a ticket of a political party and you decide to leave that political party, or when you come as an independent candidate and you decide to join a political party. And as a matter of fact, when these things happen, the consequences are determined by the Constitution. It's not for anyone to now decide what should happen. So what happened in Parliament was simply that someone brought the facts to the attention of the Speaker, that these people, by record, have changed their political parties. And that is true. By filing nomination on another party's ticket, you have automatically abandoned your party. And it is an irreversible, decision. And if you read the case of J.H. Mensah and MPP and NDC, there was a situation where some NDC members went to file nomination they were civil servants, and the Constitution prevents civil servants from contesting as MPs. So they filed nomination to be. Initially, they were elected in primaries, and then they were about to file nominations. The person brought the case to court and said that they had taken a decision, and the court said the final point of taking a decision on whether you are contesting or you have left your party is when you file the nomination. It is that decision which led to Ezanato and also led to Judge Kwesi, that once you file the nomination, you have reached that line where you cannot reverse the situation. So if there's evidence that you have filed nomination on the ticket of other political vehicles,
right,
then the consequence is that you vacate. So as far as some of us are concerned, it's not even a question of interpretation. Be that as it may, even if you want a question of interpretation, my question is, until the interpretation is done by the Supreme Court, the consequence should not be that things should not happen. When the Supreme Court finally looks at the merits of the case and takes a decision that it is wrong to get the people out, then we can say that's judicial review. So I believe that.
So that's why you have the problem with the stay of the execution of the Speaker's.
I have a problem with the stay. And let me just add this. You see, we are all learning. The Supreme Court itself is learning because they have not been through this situation before.
Right.
And I believe that Parliament is learning, the President is learning. Even we, the citizens, we are all learning. And I think we should take the position of learners in resolving these issues than the position of being persons who just churn out decisions and churn out laws or churn out opinions. We should take a step back that, okay, why should we even encourage someone who is a member of a political party in Parliament to, at the same time while in Parliament, be contesting on a ticket of another party? What benefit does it bring to a democracy when you are in Parliament on ticket?
You fraudulently represent yourself to us as the electors, and later come and change it.
There's no benefit to what we are even trying to promote. But there is a benefit in telling people that you cannot be on the ticket of Party A and be contesting in an election for another party. There's benefit in that. So if you weigh these options, I think that we should go back to what we are saying. This issue is about negotiation. And leadership is a function of negotiation. If you're a leader, you should have the capacity to negotiate and understand that legacy is at stake here. I mean, President Akufo-Addo is in his last days. As a president, what you want is that I will hand over peacefully to whoever is succeeding me, and I will leave a strong country. That is why in America there's a state of the nation. When they finish the sentence, they said the state of the nation is strong. Right. You should be able to leave the state of the nation stronger than you met it.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Justice Shremsai is a senior lecturer, University of Ghana School of Law, and also I have John Jenapo, Dr. Zato, also senior lecturer, University of Ghana Political Science Department. And Senor, stay with us. After this quick break, we would have a conversation on illegal mining. There's something happening which you should know about. And Professor Godfred Bobkin is going to be joining us in studio right after this. Stay with us.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, #1 on the ballot.
Hi, my name is Ochiame Kwame, the rap doctor. You know me as the musician. But today I come to you as the owner of OK World Travel and Tours. I created this travel and tour solution because I wanted to give you an experience that you have trusted already, that you can still trust. I know a lot of people have been to Dubai and Qatar already, but I know you have not been to Dubai and Qatar in the new year. So if you have not been, we are going from 31st of December to 6th January. Come and go with us. For only $3,000, we are going to cover your visa support. We are going to give you 4-star accommodation. We are going to give you food, all breakfast, some dinners and some lunches, and it will be amazing. On a yacht ride, you are going to have a great time. So call 0544 355 777. And don't forget to bring the whole family. We close entry on 22nd of November. See ya.
712 hash.
Luck is everywhere. 8K. Hey, should we get an 8K? Get that packing from your one line. Hey, wait.
You go put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. We'll wait here. We are star 712. It's much more phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. And now with me at ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here.
You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Oh.
Let's choose buy tickets for adults.
Love you, boo boo.
Maybe straight to option 4. Now, you need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes, you can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. That's it. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
Really? Your body, yeah.
Hey,
there are. Tread cautiously. Now from the front. The luckiest. All be lie.
Thank you, boss. See you next week. Yo, where do my passport? Where is my passport? Yo, man, I want to Waba.
What is that?
And then it's
Give me my passport.
Man, relax.
Relax. You made me pay for express for 24 hours and yet it's not in.
You told me that you are telling me this of that. What's going on? Hello.
This man here has taken my money. That within 24 hours, he'll do my passport for me.
Oh, see, that's the same applies to me. He told me last night, he's telling me this week. Process. That's what they do. Yeah. Oh, madam. Please relax. I'll get for you in 24 hours.
Hey, Goroma. So you never change? Eh? You get passport for someone within 24 hours, Madam Obwa. See, the normal working hours is 9 to 5. Eh? Now 24 hours, I'm fat. You guys have made a very big mistake by trusting these people. Now, through digitalization, passport application has been made so easy. Now, you don't need to stress yourself and join any long queue for your passport. All you have to do is to log on to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website and begin your application. By buying a passport application voucher online. Simple and easy. And very soon, all you need to get your passport will be your Ghana card. What is it true? Yeah, Obisa. It is possible.
Esuro. Boot number 1 on the ballot.
You guys for an amazing performance.
Get ready as our 16 finalists step onto the stage to perform solo for the very first time. Join us live this Sunday, October 27, 2024 at 8 p.m. sharp. Don't forget to vote for your favorite contestant by dialing *713*13# or download the MG Reality app to vote. And remember, no studio audience allowed. Mentor, the world awaits you.
Mentor 13 is powered by Shaltox Lozenges.
Sponsored by Darlin Lemon Drink, Darlin XYZ Wine, Blue Jeans Energy Drink, Enapa Foods, Frutelli Calipo.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, number 1 on the ballot.
This is the show that brings finality to all the critical issues. It is the stage where all the facts are checked, issues thoroughly interrogated, opinions shaped, and debates settled. But over here, we do more than just talk. We resolve problems. We hold those in power accountable. We address all the key happenings in society, from politics to health to education to everything you deem important. And we will center the voice of the ordinary Ghanaian. This is the show that sets the agenda.
Agenda shows Mondays at 9 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
Besides the cash prize, the perks that comes with winning, the trip abroad, the top intern also gives you the opportunity to gain advanced studies in any field around the globe.
Are you the next top intern? The Media General Registration Portal is now open to the public. Graduate with at least a second-class upper degree from any reputable university can apply for this year's Top Intern competition. Simply scan the QR code on your screen to submit your nomination.
Thanks to the Top Intern, I have transitioned from an intern to a Stardust officer here at Media General. This competition doesn't only enhance your skills, it opens doors for real career opportunity.
The top intern takes you beyond the internship.
Right. Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, and a number of radio stations across the country, quite a number of them. And I do acknowledge all of you listening to us as well on 3FM 92.7. A number of your messages coming through. Professor Kwekwaza, Professor Stephen Kwekwaza, good morning, and thank you very much for also says doing the listening and in fact watching on Facebook. Thank you very much. He sends a message. He says there's Constitutional Amendment 2021 bill that is subject to the final reading also, which is pending. It's part of the pending bills and other businesses before this 8th Parliament. Professor Kwekwaza, thank you very much. And then also Musa Abatwa in Aswansi says, Alfred, the confusion in Parliament stems from the announcement of a majority group and minority group, which created a gap. Technically, there is no clear majority or minority in the 8th Parliament. Merely associating oneself with a group doesn't necessarily make someone an actual member of that group. Thank you very much for this one. It says, hello, Alfred. We all are Ghanaians under a democratic rule where laws must be obeyed. On that note, if even the MPP refuse to write to the Speaker of those MPs going independent, anyone in Ghana can remind the Speaker that those MPs have gone against the constitution of the MPP if the Speaker himself does not even see it. On that note, Speaker is right in expelling those MPs from Parliament. Thank you. Hardy from Pig Farm says, the MPP says Ghanaians are not asleep. We are wide awake, and one of the things I would remember the president for is asking us all to be citizens and not spectators. Citizens are speaking now, you say. This one, you're asking of Nana Oheninto. Nana is on campaign. He was to join us earlier, but there was an issue. He's a bit under the weather. So we wish him a speedy recovery. Kuku Tay Gideon Bigadan says, good morning. I'm sure the Supreme Court would have ruled on this issue on time, that is, in the life of this Parliament. They would have granted the injunction in perpetuity and giving a judgment upholding the Speaker's declaration or communication, but would have been of no effect, just as a Demelevo matter. This is the matter, it says, with the Supreme Court. Please. Okay, you mentioned Dr. Tony Edu. I read that one as well. Thank you. Kakre Samoa says, under our law, any court order directing a stay of execution is automatically stayed for 7 days. And it says, Bagman is a lawyer with a long experience in the law. He didn't infringe any law whatsoever, unless you're talking about Dr. Zato wants him cited for contempt, you say. Thank you. Very much. This one here also says that for the MPP as a group, we believe in peace, law and order. And that is why we did not sit in Parliament to have that confusion and chaos that everybody was expecting to take place. Walking out on Tuesday was the best option for us as a party. This is coming from Nana Yao, who says this MPP number 1, he says. And this one here from, okay. Eduji Tamaklo, I acknowledge your message as well. Prince from Koforidia says, good morning, Alfred and your guest. The Supreme Court should come out and interpret the law before the Parliament resumes business. Until Apenyo Makin admits that the MPP is the minority and that Speaker Bagman is the head of Parliament, Speaker Bagman should not recall Parliament. Supreme Court must also take this matter up, you say. Thank you very much. Kizito from Tema East says, why is it that only NPP, okay. don't understand or disagree with the Speaker's decision, can someone take the recall of Parliament by the now minority deputy whip to court, even though he has quoted a standing order per their proceedings for interpretation? Well, yes, that's what's happened now. This private businessman who was sought to injunct the Speaker from recalling Parliament. So that's what you're talking about. It's actually happened, and we talked about it earlier on the show. So you do know there's already a process to injunct the Speaker from recalling Parliament, is it not?
I've heard of that.
Well, it is indeed true. We have a copy of that which we put on the screen earlier.
Everybody is injuncting something
as well. So this matter is not ending anytime soon. And it says, Alfred, this coming from Sewa Asante, says, good morning. I want to find out if, with the things happening now, if this 8th Parliament is not recalled before the elections, does that mean that the life of this 8th Parliament has ended? That's a question to you, Mr. Jennifer.
It's still there.
That's what?
If the things happening now continue, does that mean that if the matter is not resolved before elections, the life of this 8th Parliament has ended?
No. The Parliament, the life of this Parliament would end on the eve of 6th January. Just before then, it's dissolved, and then we reconvene for the 9th Parliament. So this Parliament is in existence until it is so properly dissolved.
I see. All right, thank you. I need to round up.
Yeah, no, but Alfred, I think that it will be important to recap what the Venerable Kwame Kufu submitted. He gave a brilliant piece.
Somebody referenced that.
A very brilliant piece.
Somebody referenced that, and
yes.
Okay.
Kwame Kufu's submission. I mean, that's my big brother, I must admit. So maybe I have some conflict in this matter, but he's my brother. I have to be honest. That was there, and everybody ought to look at it again.
Dr. Kwame Asante actually makes reference to that. Says, good morning, and listening to your conversation, it's quite clear that there has to be an honest position on this matter beyond the confusion so-called. And he says, I would like to reference part of what Kwame Ekofo, private legal practitioner, says, and I quote, a party cannot seek an application for a stay of execution in respect of a matter which is not a judgment or a court order. The Speaker's order is not of such. In any case, it is absurd to seek a stay of execution in a case in which the court has not made any orders. Continues that the course of action for which the applicant went to court had long been superseded by the conduct of the Speaker, who had declared the seat vacant. Yes. At the date of the hearing, the application was not in sync with the writ of the courts, essentially likening it to putting new wine into an old wine skin. Under the circumstance, the court was procedurally wrong in many ways, and then again, the court's assumption of jurisdiction in the face of Article 99 leaves a lot of unanswered questions. That's the point of reference that you make of Lawyer Kwame Kufu's submission.
Only celebrity lawyer.
Anyway, well, that leads us to the next issue, and I do acknowledge the many of you who have sent us messages on this matter, the 3,786 of your messages. Thank you very much. I've read as many as I can. And we've been joined in studio by Professor Godfred Bobkin. This is the first of at least the 4 dates that I have with him on this show before the elections. Professor Godfred Bobkin is a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Professor Godfred, good morning.
Good morning.
For
and good morning to our cherished viewers and my co-panelists here. Thank you.
I understand some of you, but the 2 of you were floor mates.
Yes.
Yes, so
I
was his floor rep.
And he attempted pounding me.
You see?
Were you Vandal?
No, where you go?
Come on,
we brought proper life.
If you are not Vandal, you don't talk about your halls. If you are not Vandal, you don't talk about your halls.
You are the gateway to where? Gateway to the whole university.
The Vandal. Come on, we rule. It's the Vandal law. Come on. If you're not a Vandal, be shy of where your hall was. If you're not a Vandal,
How can you be walking around and then be advertising the fact that you have mental problems? Walking naked on the street and you are proud of it.
Beside of your whole
don't let your children hear that you went to that place. This is disgrace.
Gentlemen, it's okay. If you're not
your children said that were you also walking naked on the street?
It's fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No comment.
That's a nice way of welcoming you. Okay, but that leads us to our next conversation, really, on the matter of the state of affairs. In fact, a number of the urgent businesses that the NPP caucus in Parliament wants Parliament to be recalled for borders on the economy. These tax exemptions, and then also a number of these bills as well. What is your diagnosis of the state of affairs? Because continuously I hear the finance minister, the president, talk about the fact that the indicators are trending towards pre-COVID conditions, where we are now. Quick one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, of course, we can associate with some level of recovery, but we are not there yet. Okay. And then also, if you want to celebrate this recovery, then you want to also see to it that within the context of the price that Ghanaians, including pensioners and all others, have had to pay through haircuts, through higher taxes, expenditure rationalization, and all of that. So I think that we've paid a very heavy price for this recovery. And the point also is that this is not a recovery that is broad-based. It's also not a recovery that is people-focused, right? So it's a recovery
that's people-focused.
Yeah, because if you look at the data, even from the World Bank, that in 2022, Bank of Ghana's inspired inflation alone pushed over 850,000 Ghanaians into poverty. The question is whether this recovery also took them along. Okay. And then also, if you look at the World Bank poverty indicators, I mean, we are not even talking about poverty at the lower end. Lower middle income and upper middle income poverty is also rising. So this is a crisis that did not only affect the core poor at the base, but also affected the middle class, both at the lower middle class level and then the upper middle class level. Then again, if you look at the stability we are talking about and the sacrifice, the concern is whether we have not traded off medium to long-term survivability for immediate stability. And the reason you need to look at that is that if you look at the taxes, and if you look at where we have kept policy rates, and if you look at what, apart from that, all the measures Bank of Ghana has put in place to mop up excess liquidity, all in the name of eliminating demand-related inflationary pressures, the reality is that lending to private sector, that is supposed to be the engine of growth, that holds the job creation capacity of our economy, is increasingly being undermined. And we are imposing restrictions on the growth drivers of the economy. So you cannot have this in the midst of this recovery and say, let's celebrate. So I think that we need to be conscious, and then also we need to be sympathetic with the reality, because we've been there before, right? Usually with IMF-supported programs, you pay a heavy price in the immediate to have macroeconomic stability, but it doesn't last.
It doesn't last.
It doesn't last. Okay, and in fact, in all sincerity, it will be sad for us to celebrate an inflation of 21.5%. By world average, it's still very high. Come to think of it, that September last year to September this year, prices on the average have gone up by 21.5%. Okay, in an economy where income levels are very low, salaries really have not kept pace with price development. In an economy where food inflation is higher than non-food inflation, in an economy where imported inflation is actually lower than locally produced inflation. Okay, in an economy where between 42 to 44% of household expenditure is on food. So when you see food prices going up that much, you should be concerned, because the impact is going to be very huge. In an economy where GDP growth has not been job rich, right? We have celebrated jobless growth over the years. Even now that we talk about gold economy, and our economy is largely gold economy now. either from responsible mining or irresponsible mining. But the reality is that the mining sector in the last 12, 15 years actually has not created decent jobs. Has not.
I see. And
has not. And
I see the Ghana Statistical Service data, and even with the growth we're experiencing now in the indicators, it is driven by the mining sector.
Yes, and it's not.
And you were saying that.
Yeah, it's not job rich. If we are talking about decent employment generation, especially in the formal wage economy, where they will also be contributing to direct income tax and the rest of them, we haven't seen that from mining and quarrying in the last 15 years. That is not the only thing. If you look at poverty, if you look at inequality, and you put all these things together, mining and quarrying in the last 15 years or so really hasn't delivered on those lines. So if you look at the data, even though we have been concerned over the years that Ghana has not benefited optimally from the mining fiscal regime and all of that, even with responsible mining, okay, we have not. And now that we are even doing more irresponsible mining, then it's getting worse. The reason it's getting worse is that these deposits, we are not making optimal use of it. Even if we are talking about environmental degradation, the fact that even with the large-scale industrial miners, they are not even observing all the environmental management practices, even with large scale, highly regulated, and the human rights abuse and all of that. Evidence exists to suggest that. So come to think about artisanal, small-scale mining, and now add that to even illegal mining. So the environmental destruction and all of that is huge. The other thing to bear in mind is that the Swiss Aid has actually done a report, and they are telling us that between 2012 and 2022, $115.5 billion worth of gold was actually smuggled out of Africa.
Repeat that again.
Between 2012 and 2022, $115.3 billion worth of gold was actually smuggled out of Africa. There were 3 countries that were contributing significantly to that gold smuggling: Ghana, Mali, Zimbabwe. Ghana. Okay. Now, that same report and other studies are equally documenting that Togo, Benin, and other countries that traditionally were not known as gold exporting countries are now showing up in the data strongly simply because of gold smuggling from Ghana to those borders, through our porous borders, and essentially to offset regulatory burden, the taxes and the rest of them. So apart from the fact that even with the responsible mining that we have been doing over the years, we have not benefited optimally, there is this new phenomenon where we are talking about artisanal, small-scale, irresponsible mining, where the bulk of the gold are actually smuggled, not declared. And we are losing the revenue volumes and the fiscal revenue from that as well. But look at the interesting thing. When you look at the data from both Ghana Statistical Service and then from Bank of Ghana, United Arab Emirates is now our major export destination country. You know why?
No.
It's gold export and gold smuggling.
Gold export and smuggling?
Yes.
And also the Gold for Oil program.
Okay, because approximately 85% per studies of all artisanal small-scale mining are exported to United Arab Emirates. Typically, majority of them smuggled. So the concern that we all should have is the fact that gold could have transformed our economy. Even with the mining we have done over the years and a proper regime, we have not benefited optimally. But there's the new drive now through irresponsible mining where we are even losing them more. And the interesting thing is that, you see, if you focus solely on the output and say, okay, gold is playing a key role to our economy, and therefore let's continue like this, that's a short-term thinking.
Yes.
Okay, because the destructive aspect of generating that GDP is not, or is poorly reflected in the GDP calculation. So if you just focus on the GDP and the rest of them, you may not avert your minds to the fact that you face existential threats.
Right.
And we are already paying the price. Even if we decide that let's continue like this, so that in the next 20 years or 50 years, Ghana will not be on the face of the earth, we are already paying the price. We are paying the price through higher food prices. You know the interesting thing, check the Ghana Statistical Service data. Some of Ghana's traditional food basket regions, right, are now experiencing higher food inflation.
They're actually importing food from Accra.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's concerning. Look, let's look at it this way. There can never be an economic recovery in the absence of ecological sustainability. There can never be economic recovery. There can never be growth. There can never be development without preserving our planet Earth. There cannot be. Okay? Because the point is that the distraction we are causing right now, the GDP, even if we decide to turn the GDP from that sector to correct the environmental effect, it will not be enough.
It's not reparable.
So I mean, this is pure wickedness. Let me tell you something. What you see happening right now, if you examine the slave trade and all that happened, you will see a similar pattern. It's the same slave trade mentality we are exhibiting in leadership and in management today. Because during the slave trade, there were those who were benefiting from it and wish it could continue.
But if you hear the argument that, look, banning small-scale mining and destructive mining would have economic consequences. In fact, that's one of the narratives that has prevailed, at least since we started this renewed fight against illegal mining, that it will cost us economically. And so that is not going to be an immediate option. And in fact, that has been exhibited by the non-action on the part of the president on that call for the state of emergency to be declared.
Let me tell you, that is selfishness. It is greed that assumes that position. It is short-sightedness that assumes that position. Let me tell you something. The president told us that they know how to bring the economy back to life. They don't know how to bring life back, the dead back to life. So if this irresponsible mining is destroying human organs, is causing death, which one should you prioritize? Which one can you bring back? Do you need somebody to remind us of our own lecture slides we presented during COVID? Why are we living a contradictory life? Okay, so please, and if you look at it solely from the GDP point, that is just one line of understanding this whole ecosystem we are talking about. Let me tell you something. In the development literature today, the discussion is not merely that you are making profit. Even at the private sector level, it's not good enough to say we are making profit. The quality of the profit, how environmentally consistent, socially desirable, ecologically consistent. Okay, why are we talking about ESG? Why is Bank of Ghana forcing it down our throat in the banking sector? Why is the National Insurance Commission embracing it? Why is National Pension Regulatory Authority? Why is Securities and Exchange Commission all talking about environmental social governance? Okay, if anyone will assume that that is just private sector issue, at the national level, development today must reflect the 5 Ps. What are those 5 Ps? It must be people focused. There's nothing like development if it's people absent. Okay? And the reason, and in our part of the world, the reason why we have celebrated growth, positive growth, meanwhile, millions of Ghanaians are not sure where their next meal will come from, is that people is actually not the focus of our policy prescription. We are okay to celebrate positive GDP, even if that GDP left millions of Ghanaians behind.
And that's why you make the point that even though with the indicators looking positive now, it was at the expense of the Ghanaian people. We paid the heavy price.
Let me tell you something. What we are going through is the most expensive economic recovery in all our history since independence.
It is the most expensive.
Yes.
What is happening now?
Because of the price we had to pay to have this limited stability. Okay, look, Ghana, we have restructured our debt before. Okay, even in fact, HIPIC itself was a form of debt restructuring. It wasn't this before. It's the first time we are restructuring our domestic debt in the magnitude we have seen. That is not the only thing. Look, let me tell you something. Let's not kid about this. We are in a very precarious state, even though we are talking about recovery. Ghana has gotten to the stage where the traditional fiscal consolidation measures, essentially revenue enhancement and expenditure restraint, that we have used over the years to correct imbalances are no longer enough.
It doesn't work.
It's no longer responding. In other words, our health status has gotten to the point where the traditional medicine,
it's not working.
Okay, they have to upgrade it. And that is why, as part of this IMF-supported program, the fund is saying that fiscal consolidation alone cannot deliver debt sustainability by 2028. And therefore, in addition to fiscal consolidation, what are fiscal consolidation? Revenue enhancement. Expenditure restraint. We are come to the conclusion that that is not enough. Then we have to go to the next level. What's the next level? Would have been debt restructuring. We could have focused solely on external debt like we've done previously. Now with that also, we came to the conclusion that focusing solely on external debt restructuring will not restore debt sustainability. And therefore, there's no way we can do without restructuring the domestic debt. That's why we have to do that triple line. And this is how you should understand it. Our democracy has become very expensive now. So much to the extent that tax revenue from you and I is no longer enough to sustain the state. And you should bear in mind that the debt restructuring we've done is a major source of revenue. Because there's space there. Because that's how much has been taken out of people.
Well, the finance minister said this at the IMF annual meetings that some $12 billion had been saved as a result of...
Or taken. Please. I beg you. That has been... Please, I beg you. You know, I beg you. This one, you are stepping on my toe directly. Relax. It's enough. You know, I'm also conflicted in this matter because the finance minister is also my brother. I'm very conflicted. I mean, he's my brother. I won't hide that any day. But he can't say what he's saying. He has to do that because he's a politician. It's just like you sometimes. We disagree, but you and I know you shouldn't say what you are saying. He himself, he knows that he shouldn't say what he's saying. You don't say what you might say. Look, the state has robbed its own people. And look at the state of people today. As a function of our fiscal recklessness, all these painful measures, we have actually forced down inflation, forced up inflation to further minimize the cost of the state. You people don't understand what has happened.
Yeah, the jump in inflation actually deflates the debt value.
The inflation is also part of the strategy. And who suffers for it? It's a double whammy for everybody. So I beg you, when we want to say, it's good that politicians use the right expressions. So you say, look, citizens have sacrificed 12 billion to help the state recover. I will hear that. Don't say you have saved as if it's some constructive thing that has been done.
Some innovative thing that you have done.
People have died because of that. Yeah. People's livelihoods have been dissipated because of that. People lack meaning to their lives today because of that. People can't fund basic needs because of that. I beg everybody, don't. I beg you. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
The reality is that the state is altering the lifestyle of people. Right, the state is prescribing lifestyle.
We have wiped the middle class.
Hold on. Yes,
which shouldn't be the role of the state, actually, and all of that. And as I said, if you put all this in together, we come to the conclusion that this is one of the most expensive economic recovery that we've experienced. And I think that I hope that we are learning the lessons so that we amend our ways going forward. Because the point is that this can happen. If you look at the horizon, if you look at the sources of the fiscal risk, Ghana now, and you even don't include environmental restoration, because we've done baseline costing and the rest of them, there is no way Ghana has a future. You know, we should be concerned if a rating agency comes to tell us that, there is no immediate risk of debt default, but the state does not exist solely to service its debt. The state has several commitments to the citizens. Okay, the question is, are we allocating optimally to agriculture, to health, to education? We are not. And that is why you go and check the budgetary allocation to Ministry of Food and Agri. Check the budgetary allocation to health. Check the budgetary allocation to education. We are not allocating resources optimally to the critical sectors of the economy. If you pick the energy sector alone, and I'm sure, Honorable, yeah, that's your free elective. Let me put it that way. Right.
That one, I will combine the two of them and put them like this. They are all inside.
Yeah. Okay. If you look at the energy sector indebtedness alone, the shortfall from there far outweigh the combined budgetary allocation to Ministry of Food and Agri, Ministry of Health, Education, roads. Come on. How are we as a country?
Let him conclude.
As a country, how are we able to look at all this data and go to bed and sleep soundly? Are we human beings? How are we able to look at the distraction to our water bodies, our environment, and go to bed and wake up to breakfast? No. We don't need to go for a re-examination whether we are human beings. One basic function God gave man was to preserve the earth.
It is the first.
And
all of us, you see, the point is that people think that because we are in Accra or we are here, we are far removed from the issue.
So the question has been that why should we be even having demonstrations in Accra when the Galamsey is happening?
Because the policy is in Accra.
No, because you know why? It's just a matter of time, and it will not be long. When we destroy the rural economy with water bodies as water as its embodiment of that rural ecosystem that supports life, and it's no longer sustainable for them to live there, they will come here. And the point is that if the guy in my village is not safe, I cannot assume I'm safe here.
No.
Okay.
It's pure wickedness and selfishness and greed. This is the slave trade mentality we are exhibiting with modern day economics.
Slave trade mentality exhibited in modern economics. And that reference you made to the inflation, food inflation. If you go on the Ghana Statistical Service site, and this is one that we've been studying throughout the week and when we had this conversation, take a look at this. And so I'll come to you briefly because you wanted to make a point briefly, and then I'll go to Mr. Janapal. If you look at the year-on-year inflation, food inflation, September, just last month, the Savannah region actually leads, and this is one of the food basket areas, just to bear in mind.
We are in the harvesting season.
And we're actually in the harvesting season, according to Mr. Janapal.
This is the overall inflation. Can they give us the food inflation, the regional distribution or disaggregation for food inflation?
Yeah, that's you
see,
and you
Savannah,
see Eastern region,
Alfred. You know that
Eastern, Bono East, and all of that.
Alfred,
that breakdown.
Yeah. I wanted to just
36.4 as you see in.
I want to make a point. As you all know, when it comes to this panel, I'm mismatched.
You're not mismatched.
Why?
From the policy perspective.
I'm talking. I think at least I'm telling you that when it comes to this mismatch. So, because I'm dealing with a professor of economics, I'm dealing with the energy expert, I'm dealing with a businessman. I'm a political science analyst, so I'm a politician. But I want to make a point. You just showed what you showed. The inflation, because I asked someone something. At the beginning of this year, there was serious drought in northern Ghana. Prof, I want to know how you think that also plays into, because sometimes we have to also link that there was serious drought in northern Ghana. It affected me personally. Before I was a farm, I have a farm. That from the rains didn't come when it's supposed to be, and the magnitude of that drought was almost a force majeure. Nothing that we prepared for. And so, if you now show information that shows that what's the name? Food inflation is rising. I understand. I think that, I mean, from a policy perspective, I can say that part of it because they have. Yes, I know. I'm saying that. Hey. I'm saying.
We'll allow you to finish before we have a response.
Hold on. Yes. Dr. Jato, please.
Okay. So that happened because the rains were supposed to come June, July, they never came. They came August. I was in Tumu. It was as dry as hell. So when the food was supposed to come, I think that it didn't come at the right time. And you're saying this should probably be harvesting time. But almost all the crop is on. This next month is almost the rains are supposed to stop. But most of the corn and maize is still on the farm. So the question I'm asking, Prof, is that to what extent, because this wasn't something that we budgeted for. It was a force majeure. To what extent has it affected at least the inflation and then the food inflation you're talking about? Did it have a big impact?
Of course. Let me tell you something. From 2021, from 2021, this dry spell and all those things were not there. Do you know that food inflation in some part of Ghana from 2021, 2022 went as high as 70%? Food inflation. So even now it's been coming down. So what we are tracking and the effect of the illegal mining just didn't start this year with the dry spell. You can see the trend over the years.
And more in the
did the dry spell exacerbated? Did it move the curve so much, or it was still on? I just want to understand whether the extent, how much of it was budgeted for.
So we've had drought in particular areas, largely the northern sector.
Yeah, the food.
All right, I don't think on my farms I had that in this part. You know, we didn't really suffer that. Galamsey does not sit much there. You take the places where it's Galamsey and take that data. I don't think we've had droughts there. So what you've actually had is that you have had farms traded for mining sites. You also now have water that's supposed to be used to grow crops, feed the people, and feed our food basket as a country, also now being polluted and traded. So that's where you have it.
Is it particular foods or all foods? Because I want to say something. Is it particular foods or all foods? This is what I'm
look at the category.
So because if it's about TZ, if it's about Banku, if it's about the foods that are produced up there, are we seeing, is the data showing that...
You may not see the metal is not seen in the fufu.
No, I'm
the
not
high metal
metal
is not seen.
Bro, you know, I'm not talking about it. I'm just trying to say that.
And I like
how much of the drought has been factored in, and which particular...
No, but if you hold on. Have you made your point?
Are we talking about the Galan? Because I'm just I was just asking Prof a question. I'm not to make my substantive on the Galan. I will make that. But this was just a question to seek clarifications.
Okay, so Prof,
we cannot discount that, but we should not major on the minor either, right? Because that what we are facing in terms of food inflation that has been high for some time now, it's not just because of this dry spell, and we have been tracking the data over the years. Okay, so the substitution effect and all of that. And then even if you look at our gold exports, right, which has also gone down simply because farmers are trading their cocoa farmland for...
The cocoa you mean has gone
down,
not gold,
the cocoa exports, has gone down because they are trading their cocoa farmland and all of that. Let me just share some observation, because we did some study, we visited some of those communities. Interestingly, the youth, they no longer want to go into agriculture.
Okay. No, that's not true.
Actually, if some of those...
No, I'm telling you, that's not true. I'm being honest. I'm just being honest. You are wrong about where? We can be... Okay, Galamsey areas. I mean, let's say... No, let's say that. Say in Galamsey areas. That's what I just want to say.
What I want you to do.
Okay, that's what I said.
Say in Galamsey areas.
Hold on. Gentlemen, hold on. If you are listening to the submission, it will not be have you to be too quick to make an intervention. If you have it, just as you did previously, when it's time for you to speak, then you would ask the question.
Can I?
Professor Bobkin, you concluded your point. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. I think you concluded the point.
I was going to say that we did some work, and basically the focus was the mining areas and the rest of them, and we visited and interacted and all of that. Okay, so the point is that I'm not a security expert, but what we observed, based on our interactions and all of that, we are not only talking about Ghanaians who are involved in some of these things. I mean,
it is true.
It is transnational. I mean, we met people from Niger,
Burkina Faso.
I mean, who are just migrating to those areas to participate. And it's a serious thing. Okay, not to even talk about the economic effects, the security risk, and all of that. I mean, it's... do you know something? This is not something that we should even sleep over. I mean, this is serious.
Professor Bobkin, thank you. Yeah. And
there's the data from the Ghana Statistical Service, and if you go to table 2, yearly food and non-food inflation. You see the red...
for September, you mean?
This is up to March 2024. I deliberately chose March 2024 to discount the drought. Because then with and without.
Right.
So you know what is happening. And Chief, as you can see, this is the non-food, the red. The green is the food. And if you look at the table For instance, if you take September 2022, 38, but 37 is food inflation.
Okay.
If you take, for instance, 2024, even January, the inflation is 23, but food inflation is 27, whilst non-food is 20. So when you combine that, you see a 23. But the 27, which is the bigger one, is the food inflation.
And that is what impacts majority of
That is it. So
because almost 44% of our household expenditure is on food.
Yes.
All right. So if that sector is rising,
so clearly,
and then Alfred, just bear this in mind. In any country.
Okay. He wants to know whether it's split. If you want to know the split, and then you go to the basket itself. Because the CPI has a basket. There's a and it's weighted.
Okay, hold on. Let me get
But the data is telling us it's not.
Thank you.
It cannot all be just by jargon, economic jargon. It must be brought down.
I told you this in the beginning.
Thank you. Mr. Janapo, make your point.
So what happened is that...
Make your point.
Yeah, so what happened is that there's a so-called basket of certain goods that we believe people consume all the time. And every month they go to the market and check the prices. And it tells you, based on the weight, the rate at which the prices are increasing.
Okay.
So if your food inflation is increasing at this rate, you ought to be very, very worried. Right. And for us, it's a major, major issue. But you see, I want to come to your topic. And for me, that's the most important thing. Is the economy headed for pre-COVID time, which seeks to paint the economy as moving in the right direction? First of all, look at the Bank of Ghana's Monetary Policy Committee report. Look at the Statistical Service report. And look at even the Ministry of Finance itself, the report. And normally you look at certain indicators like inflation, debt to GDP, your reserves, your trade balance, and some of these key macroeconomic indicators. If you look at inflation, for instance, when we were leaving office, inflation was around 15%. Today it's around 22%. 22% is very, very high. And like Prof also pointed out, the food inflation is even much, much higher. Yeah. Because it's just an average. Sometimes the averages can be very deceptive. And like you say, in growth rate, if you have the mining sector, discovery of a big mine, you take the value of that mine and add it to your GDP, it raises your GDP very, very high. And our GDP will be GDP per capita. So you divide that whole GDP by the total population. And you think that people are better off. But in actual sense, like he's saying, 800 people have moved into the poverty bracket. So GDP alone...
And more are joining.
Yeah, so GDP...
Ghana, water doesn't flow downwards.
So GDP alone is not enough to measure welfare. And that's why now people are talking of inclusive growth and looking at all the SDGs and stuff like that to drill down and look at the marginalized, the poor, and gender issues. Two, if you look at the exchange rate, even by the middle of the year, the city had depreciated by about 22%. 22%. I mean, that doesn't point to any positive trajectory. 22%. The Ghana cedi is among the 4 worst currency in the world.
So there's stability now.
Stability with 22% depreciation.
Stability in 22%.
22% depreciation cannot be stability.
Hold on. You let him finish.
No, maybe.
No. Finish your point.
Why?
Hold on. Finish your point. Conclude your point. Hold on.
Your debt increased from 610 billion to 742 billion in 6 months. That's about 132 billion cedis in 6 months. In 2016, the total debt was 120 billion. Ghana's total debt. But in 6 months, your debt is moved by 132 billion. And you know why it's moved so? It's on account of exchange rate depreciation. So you can't tell me...
The core debt stock in dollar terms too went up because there was a lot more borrowing.
Yes, and even domestic borrowing government is borrowing like no other person.
It is the only
and that is what is affecting the private sector and what you call crowding out.
Yes.
So credit to private sector is reducing, and government is the only player borrowing at very, very high rates. Very, 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 very high rates. And I recall, Prof was my mate my lecturer, now my friend. So interesting. He taught us model, capital asset pricing model.
You were also in Aquafo?
No. I was at the graduate hostel. No, I wasn't. I didn't have the privilege of coming to Aquafo and all that.
He didn't come to Lagos.
Yes, so, and capital asset pricing model talks of what we call a risk-free rate, which states that if you want to invest in a security, the returns that you get are in two folds. The risk-free rate, which is normally government treasury or government bonds.
No. It's actually treasury.
Yes. So because and that one.
Let's clarify.
Let's contextualize.
There's actually no risk-free instrument in the world.
Now I'm coming there.
It's a theoretical.
Yes. I'm coming there.
Lack of it. We look at the closest.
Yes. Which is
and why we call it risk-free is that if you don't want to take so much risk, you invest in government bonds. And it was assumed that hardly would the government default.
Not your government.
Hardly at that time. It was assumed. So the MPP government has come to demystify or change that narrative, where we say that if you want a safe investment, invest in government bonds. So and now, today, even the IMF is predicting that, let me just quote it for you, we're going to get to a debt to GDP ratio of 82 or is it 86%. The IMF itself, not a government of Ghana or any of us.
Okay.
That in the International Monetary Fund predicts that by the end of this year, our debt to GDP will be 82.9%. If your debt to GDP is 82.9% by the end of this year, you're not making any headway. And you cannot be returning to pre-COVID era. So this idea that we're making some significant progress, I don't see it. If you take the exchange rate, you take the debt, you take the borrowing, you take credit to the private sector, you take Bank of Ghana itself, it looks like we are headed for a very serious challenge going forward in 2025. And finally, even in the energy sector, over the past 7 days, they've been shedding load. For 1 week now, they've been shedding load because they don't have money to buy fuel. The energy sector debt is hitting 2.4 billion. Ghana is not servicing its external debt as we speak. And yet the currency is depreciating at this rate. Next year, when we start servicing the debt, it means that we need more dollars of foreign currency to service the debt.
The debt service has started.
It will further.
No, this should be correct. The debt service has started.
But it's very low.
That's very low. Very minimal. I mean, very minimal.
I agree.
Yes.
But
in 2026, that is when the real hit will come because it won't just be interest payment. It will both interest and principal. And if you look at that bullet payment in 2026
and 2027,
and we must be preparing for those periods. So for me, we are nowhere near that so-called pre-COVID era at all.
It's Asogli back. It's Asogli back on stream.
Asogli is not back.
A good place.
Yesterday, the load shedding was 450 megawatts.
450 megawatts.
Yesterday, because Asogli couldn't come on, and the other plants that could come on, government has no money to procure light crude oil for those plants. And so they are shedding load. Today, there will be load shedding.
Well, I got a message, in fact, a number of messages about the lights being off in a number of places, so that confirms it. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. We'll have the final lap of the conversation. Stay with us.
No, don't worry.
Come on, everybody.
I need to ask.
The 5 kg of rice has moved from 25 cedis to 165. Oh. Hey!
Boss, cement moved from 24 cedis to 105 cedis now. Hey!
The kenke is 5 cedis. The fish, I have 10, 15, and 20 cedis. Which one do you want?
Hey!
Stop the A.
Hey!
Vote for change. Vote for John Mahama and the NDC.
In a place where conviction meets compassion, Heritage Christian University College stands tall, shaping futures and societies. Here, creativity isn't just a concept, it's the fuel for social change. But it's not just about entrepreneurship, it's about nurturing a spirit of service and community. We instill in our students the values of leadership and giving back. Our graduates don't just earn degrees, they embody entrepreneurship, philanthropy, ethics, and global competence. Heritage is where innovation thrives amidst a serene environment, offering unparalleled experiences. Come, be part of our journey where creativity and community unite to shape a better tomorrow. Heritage Christian University College, educating compassionate entrepreneurial leaders.
Construction.
Luckiest. Star 712 hash.
Luck is everywhere. 8K. Hey, you can get an 8K. Get that packing so you have to one lie. Hey, wait.
You go put it on his tab. This is my man.
Good luck. Hey, so we build radio. We are star 712. It's much more phone. I'm on dialing the magic numbers. Star 712. Now welcome to the luckiest. And now with me at home ticket. You can buy for yourself or your loved one.
Mommy, tell mommy who's here. You're buying for me, right?
Or who else?
Oh.
Let's choose buy tickets for others.
Love you, boo boo.
So maybe straight to option 4. Now we try. You need to buy tickets worth 50 Ghana to qualify. Yes. You can buy random or preferred tickets. I'm choosing random tickets. Listen, if you buy the random ticket, the system chooses a random number for you. But if you buy the preferred, you get to input your own preferred 5 digits. 5.
Baby, give me your 5 numbers.
And how much are we buying?
Babe, look at the body and buy you.
With your body,
Hey,
there, tread cautiously. Now follow the prompts and prepare. Now the luckiest.
The luckiest is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform, not for persons below 18 years. TNCs apply.
Over 5 million children have benefited from free SHS. Protect free SHS. Vote Dr. Baumia, number 1 on the ballot.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. And this morning I've been clothed by Kogra Clothing, the best version of you. Locate Kogra Clothing on the Sminters Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station, the ground floor, same building with the Ghana Made store. You can call Kogra Clothing on 0244 238 341. That's 0244 238 341. Or on WhatsApp 0500 9000 99. That's 0500 900099. Or 0244 238 341. Choose Kogra Clothing. Choose right. Dr. Zato? You cannot disassociate the impact of illegal mining on this food inflation that we're talking about. And Professor Bokin established that nexus, that connection earlier, with these areas where illegal mining is happening and how it's impacting on even the food inflation in there, is it not?
Yeah, thank you. No, it's true. But I wanted to start on one of the most often quoted things. Lines, that's like lies, damn lies, and statistics. We've also been told that statistics are like a bikini, a very nice two-piece bikini, you know? It tries to expose a lot, but it covers more than it is showing.
You were smiling a lot more when you mentioned bikini.
Okay, conclude your point.
Conclude your point. Don't you? So they pretend to open to it expose, but the most important things are covered. So that is why sometimes when people we throw around statistics, it becomes difficult, and sometimes we must know what are happening.
How do you make me know that?
For instance, I'm just quoting about it, and it says that the World Economic Outlook's predicted an end of year inflation of 15%. That is predicting that 2005 to be 11, and then consequently after 2005 or so to get down to 18. So it is then Yes, I'm quoting something.
You're in November. We're moving to November.
Good.
So it from 22 to 15.
No, they're saying end of. I'm reading that exactly.
No, that was they had predicted. And
No.
It's the reality tells you we watch it.
Again. See, so you see what I said about statistics, right? So you now see what I'm saying about the statistics. That this is what it is predicting. This is the latest updates from the world that is saying.
No, we're talking of outcomes, so we're not talking of predictions. So I'm talking of real empirical evidence.
So I'm just telling you. So that is my issue with statistics. But then you talked about the food inflation, and I said yes, of course, we all eat food and it affects us. But that's what I wanted to know. One, the impact of the drought, an unexpected drought, an unbudgeted for drought, and a major force majeure that I don't remember the last time this country has witnessed such a drought. Okay. Now, I would think that such a drought will affect food inflation. And that then the question becomes, what kind of food? I would say that, well, the food that is produced in that food zone, the Sisala area produces the best maize in the whole wide world. It produces the best maize in the whole world, as affirmed by everything. So you should know that, your masters will produce the best maize in the whole wide world. This affected
very little aflatoxin.
If it affected the maize production in Sisala land, if you go to Tumo, Walambele, Sakai, Chalo, all the it affected. So that is one of the things. So if you see that the cost of kenke, your kenke is shrinking, or if you see that Banku is getting short, or Akule or Wakule, everything, they all have an effect on what is happening in the Sisala land. And they all has effect on what is happening with the maize that is being produced. So that's what I was asking. Is it Banku, Wakule or Kolong or Tuesday that the prices are getting, the inflation is getting high, or what is it? You understand? Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Now, or is it a PIM or some other things that are produced in the areas? You also mentioned quickly. Or beer, yeah, very important. Right. Now, the youth is not, again, it's possible we should be situational specific. It's possible that in the forest areas, when the Galamsey area, the youth is moving away from agriculture. That's true. But if you go to some of these food back in the Upper West and in Salad in particular, the youth is moving droves to agriculture. There's almost every single teacher, every single government worker in Salad is going.
Price there.
Exactly. But I'm saying that I'm talking about this particular time. I'm saying that every teacher, every government worker that I know, my friends, my colleagues, each one of them have 3 acres, 5 acres, 10 acres, 6 acres. I'm trying to make a point that there's no exodus of youth living agriculture unless you have any statistics to back that up. Unless you have anything. So
you conclude on the point.
So what I'm saying is that, yes, it seems if you put the whole thing together, that there can be a narrative that at least there is an easing or an easing of the economic, and that the numbers are beginning to get better. Probably not at the rate we want, probably not at the percentage we want, but there seems to be a general idea that the GDP is projected to go up to 4-5%, that the numbers are getting better, probably not at the rate at which we want. But that can be a conclusion that they are relatively getting better. That's what I wanted to make.
Senor?
All right, so the conversation is really more about Galamsey on the economy. Mm-hmm. But I mean, since you've touched this,
there was supposed to be.
I mean, I don't. You. When we finish, I'm finding you because we agreed that we're going to discuss. You're going to focus and address my Galamsey.
You make your point. You have very limited time on this.
So, one, when you talk about stability as an economy, what are you comparing it to? So maybe you're looking at intertemporal stability at this point. You ran the place down, and all of a sudden it wasn't melting as fast, so we have just stopped. You haven't taken us back. All right. So if the dollar today is at 16.5, so for the last 3 weeks it stayed at 16.5. You can talk about relative stability. But it doesn't mean that you haven't moved from 10 to 16 in whatever period, a very short period. So maybe the rate at which it was, there's been some pause. Mm-hmm. So that's what you want to talk about it relatively. All right, but things are not great, let us face it. Okay. And our Galamsey situation is not making life any better. Mm-hmm. Let me be honest with you. When you look at our elasticity of employment relative to GDP, it's really getting worse. Let's get that clear. The youth and all the people looking for 3 acres and 2 acres are not real farmers. You don't build an agric sector based on peasant farming. People are doing it as subsistence farming. It means that people are struggling to survive on their regular life. They have to do their own thing to be able to feed themselves. It's not. You have to understand agric. I'm an investor in agric. All right. That is not what transforms an agrarian sector. is peasant subsistence farming. What you have actually had right now with our galamsey, the destruction of our water bodies, is exactly what has been described. And let's not mix this conversation with what's happening in Tumu. We are talking about the galamsey areas, which also feed these areas. You can't go to those places in Western region that provide us plantain, and you go there, you can't get plantain. They are telling that the plantain, they are buying it from Accra. I mean, if you want to be honest, just take your time and check. Sometimes we are importing cassava from countries. There are things that are happening that we see. My brother, things are not going well because we don't have the base infrastructure to transform agriculture. And the minimum which God has given us, which is our water bodies, we are destroying it. Right. The minimum he has given us, which is our forest reserves, we are destroying it. What will our children eat tomorrow? And that's why I say this matter is so bad, it has gone beyond the space of political conversation. It's a national matter. It's an existential matter. And that's why I'm very disappointed in the president and his management of what is happening. Okay. We can't continue this way. You are cutting your nose to spite your face. It is silly. Right. Look, man, okay. There's no right here. Relax. No, 2 seconds. Relax. There's no right here, my brother. Look, we are citing gold. We are citing gold as gold revenue we are getting. Okay. But we are replacing it with our inability to get food for our future, for our cocoa to go. Are we thinking?
Thank you, Senor Jose.
Sometimes we do the chance if we didn't go to school. We were trying to PhD. This is that. But having said that, my finance minister, who is my brother, he's been working hard to correct the wrongs of the wrongs he inherited from his wife.
Senor, it's a business.
The man said you should watch the dollar.
It's a business.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Your microphones are off. Your microphones are off. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Want a free bets? You might follow these steps. You can join 1xBet app. Confirm your participation. You can bet on the correct match score. You can get a free bet every week. 1x free bet. Active bonuses for active players.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years. Gambling can be addictive.
You guys for an amazing performance.
Get ready as our 16 finalists step onto the stage to perform solo for the